Chapter 1. The Sacred Forest. It was a forbidden area of the Eternity Plane. There were many legends about the sacred forest. Some said that there was an immortal and invincible existence living in the sacred forest, but there were also some who said that there was a terrifying undying fiend living in the sacred forest. No matter what the legends were, the same thing was that an unparalleled existence resided within the sacred forest. Over the years, millennium-old families had been constantly replaced. Various super sects had risen and fallen, and even some continents had been transformed into oceans. The only thing that had never changed in the Eternity Plane was the sacred forest. The sacred forest had existed for countless years, and even the oldest ancestors of the Eternity Plane did not know how long it had existed. On this day, thunderclouds suddenly gathered in the sky above the sacred forest and rapidly spread out. An astonishing destructive force continuously spread outwards, and soon, the entire sacred forest was enveloped by this terrifying destructive force. However, the lightning of destruction was still spreading out of the sacred forest at an astonishing speed. Not long after, the sacred forest Shinwu continent was enveloped by the destructive thunder. Within the continent, the ancestors of the various super sects and the old monsters of the various dynasties were all awakened by this destructive force. They all came out and looked at the destructive thunder in horror. The ancestor of the everlasting dynasty, Tai Wuji, who was closest to the sacred forest, trembled as he looked at the rolling sea of lightning in the sky. Even a single bolt of this destructive lightning would be enough to turn the entire limitless imperial city into nothingness. What kind of divine thunder is this? How can there be such terrifying divine thunder in this world? Even the Empyrean God's tribulation isn't this terrifying. Tai Wuji was terrified. Have you investigated it? What's going on with this destructive thunder? Tai Wuji asked the experts of the dynasties beside him. Ancestor, we've investigated it. The source of the destructive thunder is in the forbidden area of the sacred forest. One of the experts said, his voice trembling at the mention of the forbidden area of the sacred forest. What? The forbidden area of the sacred forest? Tai Wuji and the experts of the everlasting dynasty all gasped. Is that unparalleled existence about to become an Empyrean god? Is he undergoing the Empyrean god's tribulation? One of the experts of the everlasting dynasty guessed. Tai Wuji shook his head. Even the Empyrean god's tribulation isn't this terrifying. Rumor has it that Empress Hong Fei once entered the sacred forest and stayed there for a few dozen years. When she came out, she was unrivaled in the world and founded the Hongtian Empire. Even martial god Jiu Ju of the Martial God Palace has entered the sacred forest. An extremely old ancestor of the dynasty gulped and said. Tai Wuji's eyes flickered. The legends about that existence are vague. No one knows if they are true or false. It's also possible that there's no supreme existence in the sacred forest. Some say that there is a sacred spring inside that can allow one to be reborn and transcend mortality. The outside world was discussing and guessing. Suddenly, the terrifying sea of lightning that had enveloped Shinwu continent instantly condensed into a terrifying pillar of lightning that blasted down on the forbidden area of the sacred forest. When the terrifying lightning pillar struck down, heaven and earth were blinded. Everyone felt a sharp pain in their eyes. When everyone opened their eyes, the world had returned to normal. It was still a clear sky with the sun hanging high in the sky, and the terrifying thunderclouds had disappeared without a trace. Everyone looked at each other. At the same time, in the forbidden area of the sacred forest, Lu Yiping's fingertips were condensing a terrifying ball of lightning. This ball of lightning was the tribulation lightning that had struck down earlier. It had been condensed between his fingers and continuously compressed until it was the size of a human head. Such terrifying lightning was even more terrifying than the tribulation lightning of the gods, but it had been condensed between Lu Yiping's fingers. Under Lu Yiping's continuous compression, the ball of lightning continued to shrink until it was the size of a thumb. Then, Lu Yiping swallowed it in one gulp. Immediately, streaks of lightning chi gushed out from all the pores on his body. However, it soon stopped. Lu Yiping absorbed the tribulation lightning's power and stood up. He stretched his body and revealed a smile on his handsome face. he had finally reached the final level of the longevity art. However, he had not expected that the villainous heavens would be displeased and send down a moderately sized tribulation lightning. Now that he had reached the final level of the longevity art, he should be able to protect himself even in the face of a great tribulation, right? It was time to go out and take a look. He wondered what was going on outside. Lu Yiping went to the library. There were shelves and shelves of books in the library. These were all cultivation techniques and secret manuals left behind by the fallen gods during the Battle of the Gods. On the walls of the library, there was a dazzling array of divine artifacts. For countless years, he had been reading these books to pass the time while cultivating the longevity art. These books were not only cultivation techniques, but also musical instruments, chess, calligraphy, painting, medicine, formations, beast taming, alchemy, and so on. However, he still had not read the last book, the Chaos Bell Incantation. He decided to cultivate the Chaos Bell Incantation before going out. Although he was not weak now, having an additional defensive cultivation technique was equivalent to having an additional strength. It was always good. A few days later, Lu Yiping, who was dressed in a light blue robe and looked to be in his 20s, walked out of the forbidden area of the sacred forest. Lu Yiping arrived at the edge of the sacred forest and looked at the endless mountain range in front of him. He strode forward and disappeared into the mountains in the blink of an eye. After a while, Lu Yiping saw a small village. In the village, smoke rose in spirals. Occasionally, there was the sound of dogs barking. Lu Yiping walked leisurely. When he passed by the village, a 12 or 13-year-old girl was practicing swordsmanship in an open space. However, the girl's level of swordsmanship was terrible. Moreover, her swordsmanship was incomplete and many of her moves seemed to be wrong. "Who are you looking for?" the girl asked warily when she saw Lu Yiping approaching. Lu Yiping saw the girl's vigilant face but did not mind. He asked, "Little girl, who did you learn the Azura sword technique from?" "Azura sword technique?" The girl shook her head. "This is the demon sweeping sword technique, not the Azura sword technique." Lu Yiping was stunned. At this time, a villager rushed out of the village and shouted to the girl, "Little you, your father's old injury is acting up. Quickly go back and take a look." The girl's pretty face changed. She hurriedly turned and ran back to the village. Lu Yiping thought for a moment and followed. When the girl, Lu Xiaoyu, returned home, she saw her father, Lu Peng, with a pale face and a pool of black blood on the ground. The black blood was emitting a shocking cold air. "Father, how are you?" Lu Xiaoyu was alarmed and asked anxiously. Lu Peng shook his head. "I'm fine." Chapter 2. Lu Yiping glanced at the black blood that was emitting a cold aura. "You were hit by the strange cold poison palm. Although you've been suppressing the cold poison with your true essence for the past 3 years, it has already begun to invade your heart meridians. In at most 2 months, the cold poison will completely cut off your life force." Lu Peng looked at the handsome young man in front of him in bewilderment. "Who are you?" This young man had actually been able to see through his injuries. "You're spouting nonsense." Lu Xiaoyu glared at Lu Yiping when she heard that her father's life force would be cut off in 2 months. At that moment, Lu Yiping suddenly waved his hand, and 9 fiery red needles flew out and pierced Lu Peng's chest. Lu Peng felt his heart meridians tremble as the cold poison surged out. He could not help but open his mouth and spit out a large mouthful of icy black blood. "Father!" Lu Xiaoyu saw Lu Yiping suddenly attack her father and was furious. She was about to stab the sword in her hand at Lu Yiping. "Xiaoyu, stop!" Lu Peng suddenly shouted. Lu Xiaoyu could not help but stop and look at her father. Lu Peng looked at the 9 fiery red needles in his chest and said in shock, "These are the 9 yang returning needles?" He then looked at Lu Yiping. "Sir, are you from Medicine King Hall?" The 9 yang returning needles were the supreme divine needles of Medicine King Hall. Only a handful of people from Medicine King Hall knew how to use them. Lu Xiaoyu was shocked when she heard that the young man in front of her was from Medicine King Hall. This was because Medicine King Hall's reputation was too great on Shenwu continent. I'm not from Medicine King Hall. Lu Yiping shook his head. He knew about the 9 yang returning needles, but these were not 9 yang returning needles. Instead, they were endless reincarnation needles, which were very similar to the 9 yang returning needles. His endless reincarnation needles had been personally refined by an ancestor of the ancient Medicine God Valley. As for what Medicine King Hall was, this was the first time he had heard of it. Not from Medicine King Hall. Lu Peng was surprised. Lu Yiping said, "Now try to circulate your true essence and draw the power of the 9 needles to expel the cold poison from your body." Lu Peng immediately tried to circulate his true qi, guiding the energy on the 9 needles. Immediately, his true qi flowed smoothly without any hindrance, and a surge of energy gushed out from the 9 needles, expelling the cold poison wherever it went. When he circulated his true essence for a full cycle, he felt his entire body warm up, giving him an indescribably comfortable feeling. In these 3 years, he had suffered from the cold poison. His blood and qi had been blocked, and his true essence had been blocked. His entire body had been stiff, and his chest had ached day and night. But now, all of these feelings had disappeared. His face, which had been pale for 3 years, finally regained its color. Lu Yiping withdrew the endless reincarnation needle. Lu Peng stood up and bowed in gratitude, "Many thanks to young master for saving me." "It's nothing." Lu Yiping said, "You're an Azura's Gate disciple, right?" "I'm an old friend of your Azura Gate's elders." "An old friend of an elder?" Lu Peng looked at Lu Yiping's delicate and pretty face. Lu Yiping looked like he was in his 20s, right? "Who's the Azura's Gate master now?" Lu Yiping asked. Lu Peng's expression changed, and he sighed, "I won't hide it from young master. The Azura's Gate has been destroyed." "Destroyed?" Lu Yiping was surprised. In ancient times, the Azura's Gate was one of the superpowers of the Hengyuan Plain. Lu Peng continued, "A few years ago, my Azura's Gate was destroyed by the Thousand Demons sect." He then said with hatred, "The cold poison palm that I was struck by was caused by an elder of the Thousand Demons sect. For the past few years, I've been hiding with little you to escape the Thousand Demons sect's pursuit." Lu Yiping asked about the Azura's Gate. It turned out that during the ancient War of the Gods, the Azura's Gate master and many of its elders had perished. The Azura's Gate had been unable to recover from this setback, and as time passed, it gradually fell to become a second-rate power in the Shenwu continent. Later, due to their own interests, the Azura's Gate had clashed with the neighboring Thousand Demons sect. At first, both sides were evenly matched in strength, and they often fought with each other, resulting in casualties. However, 3 years ago, the Thousand Demons sect suddenly received help from a mysterious expert, and the Azura's Gate master and elders were all slaughtered. Although Lu Yiping was used to seeing life and death, he still sighed when he heard about the Azura's Gate's destruction. He thought for a moment, then took out the Azura sword technique from among the countless secret manuals in the Universal Cauldron and handed it to Lu Peng. Lu Peng was puzzled, but when he took a look, he was surprised. Azura sword technique. Azura sword technique? When Lu Xiaoyu heard this, he moved closer to take a look. Lu Peng was bewildered, but the more he read, the more excited he became. He looked at Lu Yiping in disbelief. "Young master, this Azura sword technique manual, This Azura sword technique manual was actually complete. A total of 36 moves. And the Azura sword technique he knew only consisted of the first 6 moves. Moreover, the 6 moves were altered beyond recognition. However, the complete Azura sword technique had been lost for many years. How did this young man in front of him get his hands on it? I've said it before, I'm old friends with your Azura's Gate elders. Lu Yiping said. Lu Peng hesitated, asking, "May I know which elder of my Azura's Gate young master knows?" "You'll know in the future." Lu Yiping shook his head. Lu Peng tactfully did not pursue the matter. He bowed respectfully to Lu Yiping and said, "Young master first saved me, and now you've bestowed me with such a peerless sword technique. In the future, if you have any orders, Lu Peng will go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. Lu Yiping smiled at Lu Peng's words. In the long years he spent in the holy forest, there were more than a dozen visitors who stayed with him for a period of time. Before each of them left, they swore an oath to the heavens that they would say the same thing. Among them, even the weakest one was 10,000 times stronger than Lu Peng. Therefore, he didn't take Lu Peng's promise to go through water and tread on fire to heart. As for the peerless sword technique, well, it couldn't be considered one. The next 3 days, Lu Peng and Lu Xiaoyu, father and daughter, forgot to eat and sleep, diligently practicing the Azura sword technique. Lu Yiping watched from the side, not giving any pointers. Between the two of them, Lu Xiaoyu was born with the Dian sword physique, so her talent was much better than Lu Peng's. However, Lu Peng's sword heart was tenacious, and his understanding of the way of the sword was not bad. In these 3 days, the two of them practiced the Azura sword technique to the 10th move. On this day, Lu Peng came before Lu Yiping, hesitated for a moment, then said, "Young master, in a few days, it will be the Lei Ke Sword School's triennial disciple recruitment day. I want Xiaoyu to participate in the assessment. If Xiaoyu can enter the Lei Ke Sword School, with the protection of the Lei Ke Sword School, she won't have to hide from the Thousand Devil sect with me anymore. We plan to depart for the Lei Ke Sword School tomorrow, what do you think?" The Lei Ke Sword School was the #1 sect in the Everlasting Dynasty. If Lu Xiaoyu could join, she naturally wouldn't have to fear the Thousand Devil sect. In fact, before Lu Yiping appeared, they already had this plan. Lei Ke Sword School, huh? Lu Yiping heard this and muttered. He remembered that several generations ago, a little guy named Yang Dong stayed in his sacred forest, saying that he was from the Lei Ke Sword School. "Alright, I'll go with you to the Lei Ke Sword School," Lu Yiping said, taking a look at the little guy, Yang Dong. Chapter 3. When Lu Peng heard that Lu Yiping was going to the Lei Ke Sword School with them, he was overjoyed and immediately packed his things with his daughter. The next day, the three of them left the village. "Sir, the journey to the Lei Ke Sword School is long. Why don't we buy a carriage from the city ahead?" Lu Peng asked Lu Yiping. They were currently at the southernmost tip of Shenwu continent, while the Lei Ke Sword School was at the northernmost tip. "Buy a carriage?" Lu Yiping shook his head. "No need, I have one." He then took out the war chariot from the cauldron of heaven and earth. Lu Peng and Lu Xiaoyu stared at the war chariot in front of them. The war chariot in front of them seemed to be made of gold. Pulling the chariot was a similarly golden-colored bull. Even the bull's hair and horns were golden. "Sir, are we taking this bull carriage?" Lu Peng asked hesitantly. Lu Yiping guessed what the two were thinking and said, "This carriage is quite fast." However, he did not explain further. "Get on." This bull was no ordinary creature. He had found it in the Dragon Clan's sacred land, and it was called Taurus Longjiao. It was the descendant of the Dragon Ancestor and the Lightning Ancestor. It had also inherited the bloodline of the nine-clawed Golden Dragon and the Lightning Ancestor. There was only one mutated beast in the world that possessed both the bloodline of the nine-clawed Golden Dragon and the Lightning Ancestor. If one looked closely, they would find that the bull's horns were very similar to those of a dragon. As for the material used to build the war chariot, it was a rare divine metal called gold flame brass. In the past, the Devil Clan's master had used gold flame brass to build his chariot. Lu Peng and Lu Xiaoyu followed Lu Yiping into the chariot. "Xiao Jin, don't go too fast," Lu Yiping said to Taurus Longjiao. "Yes, master." Taurus Longjiao nodded. Lu Peng and Lu Xiaoyu were shocked. Generally speaking, only demonic beasts that had reached the Golden Core realm could speak. This bull was a Golden Core realm demonic beast. "Young master, are you a beast tamer?" Lu Peng could not help but ask. Lu Yiping smiled and said, "You could say that. I've learned a little about medicine and beast taming." In his long years in the sacred forest, whether it was the zither, chess, calligraphy, painting, medicine, beast taming, alchemy, or formations, he had dabbled in all aspects. However, what he liked the most was still alchemy and formations. When Lu Peng heard Lu Yiping say that he had learned a little about medicine and beast taming, he nodded to himself. No wonder. Even though Taurus Longjiao had slowed down, it still approached Lei Kei's sword school after a few days. Along the way, the few of them walked through the barren mountains. Occasionally, they would enter a city and stop for a while. Therefore, nothing happened along the way. Young master, Snowfall City is up ahead. Lu Peng pointed at the city in front of them. On the plains before them stood a large city. Above the city, snow was drifting in the air. Snowfall City was a famous city on the Shinwu continent. The sky above the city was covered in snow all year round. How beautiful! Lu Xiaoyu sighed as she looked at the city from afar. Looking at Snowfall City, Lu Yiping could not help but think of some things that had happened in the past. Even though so many years had passed, Snowfall City still existed. At this time, the sky was slowly darkening. Let's enter the city, Lu Yiping said. We'll rest for the night, and then head to Lei Kei Sword School tomorrow. Lei Kei Sword School was not far away, and it would take at most half a day to reach it, so there was no rush. Yes, young master, Lu Peng replied. After a few days of interaction, Lu Peng completely followed Lu Yiping's lead. Thus, the few of them headed towards Snowfall City. Snowfall City's streets were clean and tidy, and pedestrians were everywhere. It was not as desolate as they had imagined. Lu Xiaoyu looked up and saw snow falling from the sky. When it reached the ground, the snowflakes seeped into the ground and disappeared. The streets were not slippery at all. Seeing his daughter's surprised expression, Lu Peng smiled and said, "Rumor has it that in ancient times, an almighty person set up a great snow-gathering array in the sky above Snowfall City, as well as a great snow-melting array underground. That's why Snowfall City snows all year round. However, when the snow reaches Snowfall City, it disappears without a trace." Lu Xiaoyu looked up at the sky in shock. There's still someone who can set up great arrays in the sky? After so many years, these two great arrays are still in operation? Lu Peng nodded. That almighty person's arrays are so advanced that they have exceeded our expectations. Even Lord Qin Qingyang came here to study these two arrays for decades without any results. Qin Qingyang was the strongest array master on the Shinwu continent. He was also one of the most powerful people on the continent. Even Lord Qin Qingyang's research was fruitless. Lu Xiaoyu was shocked. I wonder who that almighty person is. I don't know. Lu Peng shook his head. No one knows. Lu Yiping's expression remained the same. He obviously knew who had set up these two great arrays. The three of them sat in an ox cart and slowly traveled along the streets. The golden chariot and the golden ox attracted the attention of many people. I heard that the Lei Kei Sword School is accepting disciples this time. Even Xiao Changfeng from the Xiao family is participating. It's not just Xiao Changfeng. I heard that Zheng Yu from the Zheng family is also entering the Lei Kei Sword School. Even our dynasty's Princess Tai Yan is here. Some of the disciples from the various sects and clans were discussing. The day of the Lei Kei Sword School's disciple recruitment was approaching, so there were many experts and disciples from various clans in Snowfall City. Xiao Changfeng. Princess Tai Yan. Lu Peng was shocked when he heard the discussions of the passing disciples. Is that Xiao Changfeng from the Xiao family who is known as the Young God? Lu Xiaoyu's beautiful eyes also moved. It should be. Lu Peng nodded with an excited expression. I didn't expect that even Xiao Changfeng would be participating in the Lei Kei Sword School's assessment. Young God? Lu Yiping was puzzled. Lu Peng was startled. You don't know this Xiao Changfeng? He then explained, Xiao Changfeng was born with the Deqian divine physique. He's not even 17 years old, but I heard he's already at 10th stage divinity realm. Moreover, his comprehension is amazing. He can learn any kind of divinity with one try. Some people say he's bound to become a god in the future, thus he's known as the young martial god, or young god for short. De Qian divine physique? Lu Yiping shook his head inwardly. A De Qian divine physique dared to be called a young martial god. The De Qian divine physique was only an ordinary high-grade divine physique. In ancient times, it wasn't uncommon to have 2 high-grade divine physiques or even 2 top-grade divine physiques. Above the divine physique, there was the saint physique, and above the saint physique, there was the Tao physique. As for young Master Jingyu, Lu Peng was about to continue when a commotion broke out in the distance. It's young Master Jingyu. It's young Master Jingyu and Princess Tai Yan. Lu Peng and Lu Xiaoyu were shocked. In the distance, a large group of carriages was heading in their direction. In the middle of the group of experts, a man and a woman stood out. The man was clad in a long white robe, riding on a white tiger. The woman was clad in a purple phoenix robe, riding a dragon horse. Chapter 4. Sir Jingyu. Princess Tai Yan. Lu Xiaoyu was shocked. In the Limitless Dynasty, the Jing family's Jingyu and Princess Tai Yan were as famous as Xiao Changfeng, who was known as the Young God. While Lu Peng and Lu Xiaoyu were nervous, the convoy approached. Looking at the approaching Limitless Dynasty guards and Jing family experts, Lu Peng and Lu Xiaoyu held their breaths and lowered their heads, not daring to breathe too loudly. Even if the Shura sex overlord was here, he would not dare to show the slightest disrespect to the Limitless Dynasty and Jing family. Princess Tai Yan and Jingyu rode on their beasts, chatting and laughing. When they passed by an ox cart, Princess Tai Yan was stunned. Someone actually used gold to build a carriage? And an ox to pull it. This bull was also golden in color. However, when she saw the golden ox's horns, she was puzzled. Jingyu noticed Princess Tai Yan's expression and smiled. Your Highness, do you like this golden ox? If you do, I'll have someone buy it. Princess Tai Yan shook her head and smiled. It's not that I like it, I just feel that this golden ox is strange. Also, those horns look like dragon horns. Jingyu smiled. There are many strange beasts in this world. Those horns do look like dragon horns, but that's all. She then glanced at Lu Yiping and smiled. I wonder which small family actually used gold to build an ox cart. Princess Tai Yan pursed her lips and smiled. Large clans usually used spirit stones and millennium cold steel. Only a few small clans would use gold to forge things. The convoy finally left. Lu Peng and the surrounding experts breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Yiping suddenly asked, who is the current ruler of the Shinwu continent? Lu Peng was startled, but then he replied with a fanatical and worshipful expression, it's Lord Wan Wudi. Wan Wudi? Lu Yiping was stunned. The Wan family? He recalled a little girl who had entered the sacred forest before Yang Dong. That girl's surname was Wan. Do you know Wan Beibei? Lu Yiping asked casually. Lu Peng was puzzled. When he thought about the possibility that Lu Yiping was talking about that supreme existence, his expression changed drastically. However, just as he was about to speak, 2 people walked out from the crowd. When Lu Peng saw who it was, his expression changed and hatred filled his eyes. Sun Li. Sun Li, an elder of the Thousand Devils sect. The frost poison palm he had suffered was all thanks to Sun Li. Sun Li chuckled, Lu Peng, I didn't expect you to still be alive. You've lived quite a long life. Then, he looked at Lu Xiaoyu. Your daughter has already grown up. She's quite lively. After saying that, he walked towards Lu Yiping's group with another elder of the Thousand Devils sect. At the same time, his aura was completely released. Golden light surged around Sun Li's body. 4th stage of the Golden Core Realm. An expert exclaimed from the side. In the Eternity Plane, from lowest to highest, they were Foundation Establishment, Xiantian, Divine Ability, Golden Core, and Violet Palace. To some small clans, a 4th-level Golden Core stage martial artist was absolutely an expert. Lu Peng was shocked. 3 years ago, Sun Li was only in the 2nd stage of the Golden Core stage. Now, he had actually broken through to the fourth stage. Although Lu Peng's poison had been completely expelled, in the last 3 years, his cultivation had stagnated at the first stage of the Golden Core stage. Sensing Sun Li's fourth stage Golden Core stage aura, Jingyu and Princess Tai Yan, who had already walked far away, stopped and turned around. "Young master, quickly leave." At this time, Lu Peng urged Lu Yiping. "Leave?" Sun Li chuckled, "Do you think you can leave?" He leaped into the air and slashed out with the big saber in his hand. Saber light shot out and streaks of black frigid air whistled out. "It's the Nether Frost Force. The Thousand Devils Sect's great ability." Lu Peng was shocked. In the past, he had been struck by Sun Li's Nether Frost Palm, so he knew how terrifying it was. Now that Sun Li had broken through to the fourth stage of the Golden Core stage, his Nether Frost Force was undoubtedly more terrifying than before. Just as Lu Peng's saber arrived in front of the war chariot, suddenly, everyone heard a heaven-shaking bull roar. The bull's roar resounded through heaven and earth. The sound was deafening to everyone's ears. Following the bull's roar, a terrifying wave of golden energy swept out, covering the sky and earth. Sun Li was alarmed, and in the blink of an eye, he was submerged by the golden energy wave. In the next moment, he felt a terrifying force colliding with him. The big saber in his hand turned into dust. Sun Li was sent flying like a kite with its string cut, crashing into the Taiji dynasty's fleet that had already gone far away. The ground trembled, and the fleet was in chaos. Sun Li rolled under Zhengyu and Princess Tai Yan's mounts. His robe was torn to shreds, and he lay there motionless. Lu Peng, Jingyu, Princess Tai Yan, and the surrounding family disciples were dumbstruck looking at Sun Li's corpse. Everyone stared at the Taurus Longjiao in fear. The bull's roar came from the Taurus Longjiao. A single bull's roar actually killed a fourth stage Golden Core stage expert. The other Thousand Devil Sect elder who was with Sun Li saw Sun Li's corpse, and his face paled. He abruptly turned around, wanting to flee. However, just as the Thousand Devil Sect elder was about to flee, he suddenly felt the sky brighten. He turned around in shock, only to see a terrifying golden wave of chi rushing towards him from behind. In the next second, he lost consciousness. The Thousand Devil Sect elder was blasted to death by the golden energy wave, and his blood splattered all over the ground. Heaven and earth were silent. No one saw how the Taurus Longjiao attacked. "Let's go," Lu Yiping said indifferently, not even looking at Sun Li's corpse. The Taurus Longjiao lifted his foot and slowly walked forward. Everyone watched the war chariot leave with complicated expressions. Princess Tai Yan was shocked as she watched the war chariot leave. She asked one of her fourth stage Purple Mansion realm subordinates, "What breed do you think this bull is?" That Taiji dynasty expert was a beast-taming expert. Looking at the Taurus Longjiao leaving, he said in surprise, "When this bull attacked, there were fluctuations of dragon force. It should have the dragon race's bloodline." But a bull with the dragon race's bloodline? He had never heard of such a thing before. He continued, "As for this bull's strength, I can't see through it." Princess Tai Yan nodded. The Zheng family's Purple Mansion realm expert, Jingyu, said with a dry throat, "This blue-robed young man appeared in Snowfall City. Is he also here to participate in the Lei Kei Sword School's disciple assessment?" The fourth stage Purple Mansion realm expert said in surprise, "This young man doesn't have any true essence or inner force. It's really strange. Could it be that he has cultivated to the returning to origin realm?" Jingyu sneered and said, "Returning to origin realm? Even an Emperor realm expert can't return to origin realm. Don't tell me you think that young man is a divine spirit realm expert?" The Zheng family's experts all laughed. Princess Tai Yan looked at the direction Lu Yiping left and pondered. Chapter 5. After leaving, Lu Yiping's trio went to the largest restaurant in Snowfall City, the Golden Phoenix Restaurant, and stayed there for the night. The next day, they continued their journey. Lu Yiping sat in the war chariot with a flask of Snowfall wine in hand. He took a sip and shook his head. The wine was becoming more and more tasteless as he drank it, and it was a far cry from its original taste. Do you know who the oldest ancestor of the Lei Ke Sword School is? Lu Yiping asked Lu Peng. Lu Peng hurriedly replied, it's Lord Yangcheng. Not only is Lord Yangcheng the #1 expert of the Lei Ke Sword School, but he's also one of the 4 great experts of the Everlasting Dynasty. However, Lord Yangcheng hasn't appeared for many years. Recently, there's been a rumor that Lord Yangcheng's disciple, Lord Qinhong, is planning on accepting a disciple. Was this the reason why Xiao Changfeng, Princess Tai Yan, Jingyu, and the others had all come? What about Yang Dong? Lu Yiping suddenly asked. Yang Dong? Lu Peng was shocked. Are you asking about sword god Yang Dong? In the past 100,000 years, there had only been 3 people on Shinwu continent who had been given the title of sword god. Sword god Yang Dong. Lu Yiping was surprised, but he quickly nodded. Lu Peng took a deep breath and said, sword god Yang Dong has been missing for 40,000 to 50,000 years. Missing? Lu Yiping frowned. Lu Peng nodded. Sword god Yang Dong's disappearance is a mystery on Shinwu continent. However, Lord Yangcheng should know where he is. Lord Yangcheng is the son of sword god Yang Dong. Yang Dong's son. Lu Yiping pondered this. That brat Yang Dong had been missing for 40,000 to 50,000 years. Did that mean that he had disappeared less than 10,000 years after leaving the sacred forest? Half a day later, the war chariot arrived at the foot of the Lei Ke Sword School mountain. The Lei Ke Sword School was already packed with people. As far as the eye could see, the disciples of the various clans who had come to register for the examination had almost filled the entire mountain peak. Young master, let's go register for the test first, Lu Peng said respectfully to Lu Yiping. Alright, go ahead. I'll take a walk too, Lu Yiping said. Thus, Lu Peng led his daughter, Lu Xiaoyu, to the registration area so that his daughter could participate in the Lei Ke Sword School's disciple assessment. Lu Yiping stored the Taurus war chariot into the cauldron of heaven and earth and strolled around. Lu Yiping had only taken a few steps when he heard a commotion in the crowd. It turned out that the Limitless Dynasty's Princess Tai Yan and the Jing family's Jingyu had arrived. Surrounded by the crowd, Princess Tai Yan was about to ascend the mountain when she suddenly saw a blue-clothed figure. She couldn't help but be stunned. It's him. Third uncle, it's that young man. Princess Tai Yan said to a middle-aged man beside her. Tai Hongtao followed Princess Tai Yan's line of sight and his gaze fell on Lu Yiping. He asked in surprise, is that the young man on the Taurus war chariot that you mentioned yesterday? Yes, third uncle. You have blue eyes. Can you see if there's anything special about that young man? Princess Tai Yan asked. Tai Hongtao's eyes flickered with a blue light. Under his blue eyes, Lu Yiping's meridians, dantian, blood, and bones appeared one by one. Soon, he withdrew his gaze and shook his head. He really doesn't have any true essence, internal energy, or divine power. Princess Tai Yan was disappointed hearing this. After returning yesterday, she felt that this blue-clothed young man wasn't simple, but she didn't expect that he really didn't have any true essence or internal energy. Her third uncle's blue eyes were ancient divine eyes that could see through the essence of everything. Even a divine spirit realm expert could see some clues. Since she determined that this young man didn't have any, then he really didn't have any. It seemed like she was overthinking things. Seeing Princess Tai Yan paying so much attention to Lu Yiping, Jingyu chuckled and said, I told you, how could he be a divine spirit realm expert? Princess Tai Yan didn't pay any more attention to Lu Yiping. She entered the examination hall with the Limitless Dynasty's experts. Lu Yiping leisurely walked to a sword wall. Countless sword moves were carved on the sword wall. In front of the sword wall stood numerous experts from various families. These experts were trying to comprehend the sword moves on the sword wall. Young master. At this time, Lu Peng, who had just finished his daughter's registration, came to find Lu Yiping. Seeing Lu Yiping looking at the sword wall, he said, This is the sword wall left behind by Lord Sword God Yang Dong. Back then, Lord Sword God Yang Dong said that the sword wall could be comprehended by all sword lovers. Therefore, whether it's the Lei Ke Sword School's disciples, other families' disciples, or sects' disciples, they can all comprehend it. There are a total of 999 sword moves on the sword wall. However, after so many years, those who could comprehend 100 moves are few and far between. While Lu Peng was explaining, Lu Yiping's gaze fell on a large sword inserted into the ground beside the sword wall. The exposed section of the large sword was 1 meter tall, and the blade was very wide. It was several times wider than an ordinary long sword. This is Sword God Yang Dong's Scarlet Flame Sword. It has been inserted into the sword wall for tens of thousands of years. No matter who can pull it out, this Scarlet Flame Sword will belong to that person. Lu Peng shook his head. However, after so many years, no one has been able to pull it out, not even Lord Yang Cheng. Scarlet Flame Sword. Lu Yiping looked at the familiar Scarlet Flame Sword in front of him. Just as he was about to step forward to pull it out, he saw a 16 to 17-year-old tall youth walking over. Behind the youth was a large group of experts. Young God Xiao Changfeng. The various families' experts were shocked when they saw the tall youth. A strong commotion broke out. Young Master Xiao Changfeng. Greetings, young God. The experts in front of the sword wall hurried to greet Xiao Changfeng. Xiao Changfeng smiled and nodded at the crowd. Last year, I came here to pull out the Scarlet Flame Sword, but I couldn't. This year, I have comprehended the sword Dao and wanted to pull it out again. Did I disturb everyone? Xiao Changfeng said to the crowd. No, no. The experts quickly shook their heads. An expert smiled and said, last time, young Master Xiao Changfeng almost pulled out the Scarlet Flame Sword. This time, young Master came with confidence. I think young Master will be able to pull out the Scarlet Flame Sword. In fact, Xiao Changfeng only pulled out an inch last time. It was 109,000 miles away from this expert's so-called almost pulling it out. Xiao Changfeng listened to this expert's flattery and smiled. He then came in front of the Scarlet Flame Sword and released his aura. Rays of divine light shot out from his body. It's the Deqian Divine Physique. The crowd exclaimed. Xiao Changfeng urged the Deqian Divine Physique bloodline to the extreme. He took a deep breath, and his robe fluttered without wind. Shocking sword energy spread out from his body. The surrounding family's experts, who were weaker, retreated in shock. Xiao Changfeng suddenly shouted in a deep voice. His voice was like a clap of thunder. His hands grabbed the Scarlet Flame Sword's hilt and pulled it up. Suddenly, the Scarlet Flame Sword flickered. Xiao Changfeng's entire body was blazing with divine light. The Scarlet Flame Sword finally moved slowly. Soon, it was pulled out an inch. Xiao Changfeng shouted again and pulled it up with all his strength. Finally, the Scarlet Flame Sword slowly rose up again. It was pulled out an inch again. However, no matter how Xiao Changfeng urged the Deqian Divine Physique and how sword energy shot out, he was unable to pull it up again. Chapter 6. Being stared at by everyone, Xiao Changfeng tried for a while more but could only give up in the end. The Crimson Flame Sword returned to its original position. Xiao Changfeng said self-deprecatingly, looks like I can't pull out this Crimson Flame Sword with my disposition. Only someone with an invincible disposition can pull out the Crimson Flame Sword and be worthy of Sword God Yang Dong's Crimson Flame Sword. That expert just now laughed and said, last time, young Master Xiao Changfeng pulled out an inch. This year, he pulled out 2 inches. After a few years, he'll definitely be able to pull it out. If young Master Xiao Changfeng is unable to pull out this Crimson Flame Sword with his divine disposition, then it's even more impossible for other people in this world to pull it out. The group of experts who came with Xiao Changfeng earlier also spoke one after another, saying all sorts of things. Xiao Changfeng was all smiles as he spoke modestly. Then, he cupped his fists and said, sorry for disturbing everyone. He turned around and left with the group of experts. After Xiao Changfeng left, Lu Yiping walked towards the crimson flame sword and arrived in front of it. The group of experts who stayed behind to continue comprehending the sword wall saw a young man in blue walking towards the crimson flame sword right after Xiao Changfeng left. They couldn't help being startled. What does this young man want to do? He wouldn't want to imitate young Master Xiao Changfeng and pull out this crimson flame sword, right? A family expert laughed. The family expert who flattered Xiao Changfeng earlier laughed. Which family is this young man from? He actually wants to pull out this crimson flame sword. Wait a moment. I'm afraid he'll be blasted thousands of miles away by the crimson flame sword energy. Everyone laughed out loud. Xiao Changfeng had already walked away. Hearing the commotion behind him, he looked over. Seeing a young man imitating him to pull out the crimson flame sword, he couldn't help shaking his head and smiling. Lu Peng was also surprised when he saw Lu Yiping wanting to pull out the crimson flame sword. At this time, Lu Yiping grasped the crimson flame sword's hilt and suddenly pulled. The crimson flame sword was pulled out. Without the slightest pause. When the crimson flame sword was pulled out by Lu Yiping and completely left the ground, a shocking flaming sword pillar shot up to the sky. The flaming sword's light illuminating the entire Lei Ke Sword School. Countless peaks of Lei Ke Sword School's mountain gate were illuminated by the flaming sword light and turned red. The earth shook violently as if a huge earthquake had occurred. The sword emitted an astonishing sword chi that filled the air. A terrifying sword chi suddenly shot out. The family expert who had just said that Lu Yiping would be sent flying thousands of miles away by the scarlet flame sword chi was instantly sent flying by this sword chi, disappearing without a trace. Apart from Lu Peng, Xiao Changfeng and the rest were all struck by the crimson flame sword chi until they retreated again and again. Some were knocked down by the people in front of them, and the surroundings were in chaos. The moment Lu Yiping pulled out the scarlet flame sword, Princess Tai Yan, Jing family's Jingyu, and the others who had entered the examination hall to take the examination all felt the terrifying sword chi that filled the heavens and earth, and saw the fiery red sword light that illuminated the heavens and earth. What's going on? Princess Tai Yan was shocked. Moments later, a Lei Ke Sword School inner disciple rushed into the hall, excitedly reporting to the elders in the hall, "Elders, it's the scarlet flame sword. Someone pulled out Ancestor Yang Dong's scarlet flame sword." What? The scarlet flame sword. It was pulled out. Princess Tai Yan, Jingyu, and the elders in the hall were shocked. Quickly go to the sword wall. The Lei Ke Sword School's elders shouted excitedly. Immediately, all of them rushed to the sword wall. Jingyu said, "I wonder which monstrous sword genius actually pulled out the scarlet flame sword." Princess Tai Yan said, "Let's quickly follow them, we must be on good terms with this kind of person." The Limitless Dynasty and Jing family's experts also rushed out, rushing to the sword wall. On the other hand, inside the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral land, Lei Ke Sword School's sect chief Song Ning was reporting to Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestors about the Sword Demon's challenge. Suddenly, he sensed a shocking sword chi that engulfed heaven and earth. Then, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. Song Ning's face tightened. Could it be that the Sword Demon is here? In the past, the Sword Demon was defeated by their ancestor Yang Dong and fled. Who would have thought that after so many years, the Sword Demon would appear again? Early in the morning, the Lei Ke Sword School received the Sword Demon's challenge letter. Since they were inside the ancestral land, Song Ning could not see the red sword chi outside, so he assumed that the Sword Demon had arrived. Yang Cheng's eyes flickered as he sensed the shocking sword chi filling the air. No. This is not the Sword Demon's sword chi. All of you, come with me and take a look. Immediately, he rushed out of the ancestral land with Chen Hong, Song Ning, and the others. The moment they stepped out of the ancestral land, they saw the red sword chi that illuminated heaven and earth. This is the scarlet flame sword chi. Could it be? Chen Hong, Song Ning, and the others were shocked. While Yang Cheng and the others were still in shock, they suddenly saw a sword scabbard flying out from the Lei Kei Sword School's ancestral hall, towards the sword wall. Chen Hong, Song Ning, and the others recognized that it was the Scarlet Flame Sword scabbard that was enshrined in the ancestral hall. The Scarlet Flame Sword scabbard had been enshrined in the ancestral hall for so many years without any movement, but now, it was flying out of the ancestral hall. Even Yang Cheng couldn't hide his excitement. Someone pulled out the Scarlet Flame Sword. His father's Scarlet Flame Sword was finally pulled out by someone. Master, let's go to the sword wall now and see who pulled out the Scarlet Flame Sword. Chen Hong was equally excited. Yang Cheng nodded, all right, bring him to the ancestral land to see me, I want to meet this sword genius in person. Chen Hong, Song Ning, and the others saluted Huang Xiaolong, then turned into a streak of sword qi, flying towards the sword wall. At this time, the Scarlet Flame Sword scabbard flew out from the ancestral hall, then turned into a streak of fiery red light, arriving in front of Lu Yiping. The Scarlet Flame Sword automatically returned to the scabbard. The sword qi that permeated the heaven and earth slowly dissipated, and the fiery red sword qi in the sky also gradually faded. Xiao Changfeng and the others who were blown to the ground by the sword qi finally stopped rolling. After a while, Xiao Changfeng and the rest climbed up from the ground in a sorry state. Everyone stared at the Scarlet Flame Sword in Lu Yiping's hand with disbelief. Everyone could see that this blue-robed young man did not have any true essence or inner force, and he only had a mortal body. The Scarlet Flame Sword was actually pulled out by this blue-robed young man who had no true essence or inner force, and still had a mortal body. Xiao Changfeng looked at Lu Yiping with a frown. He couldn't figure out how Lu Yiping pulled out the Scarlet Flame Sword. Many experts at the scene stared at the Scarlet Flame Sword with burning eyes. This was the sword god Yang Dong's sword from that year. It would be a lie to say that they weren't tempted. However, in front of everyone's eyes, and inside the Lei Kei Sword School, no one dared to make a move to snatch it. Right at this time, a family elder in the crowd suddenly went berserk, trying to grab the Scarlet Flame Sword in Lu Yiping's hand. Finally, someone couldn't resist making a move. Chapter 7. As the elder reached out to grab Lu Yiping, his shocking aura swept out, shocking the surrounding experts. Life-seizing. One of the clan lords cried out in alarm. Shockingly, it was a life-seizing elder from the Shao clan. Above Gold Core was the Violet Palace realm, and above that was the life-seizing level. A life-sizer was enough to dominate an entire region. In the life-seizing level, one could seize life from the heavens, and greatly increase one's longevity. Once one broke through to the life-seizing level, one could surpass the limit of 1,000 years. Although some life-seizers were in their 70s or 80s, they were actually freaks who had lived for hundreds or even thousands of years. Seeing this, Lu Peng was just about to go all out to defend himself when, all of a sudden, the Crimson Flame Sword began to glow, and everyone heard the roar of a heaven-shaking lion. An enormous flaming lion flew out from the Crimson Flame Sword, its claws stabbing into the chest of the Shao clan life-sizer elder. It moved so quickly that no one had time to react. By the time everyone realized what was happening, the Shao clan elder was falling from the sky. A loud crash rang out. Sand and dust flew up into the air. It's the spirit automaton. One of the clan patriarchs cried out in alarm. The spirit automaton of the Crimson Flame Sword. It's the spirit automaton of the Crimson Flame Sword. Hearing the ancestor's exclamation, everyone remembered the legend of the Scarlet Flame Sword. According to the legends, the Crimson Flame Sword was sealed with the spirit of an incredibly powerful spirit automaton. However, the spirit automaton couldn't possibly attack on its own. Had Lu Yiping summoned the spirit automaton of the Crimson Flame Lion? But how had he summoned the spirit automaton? Xiao Changfeng looked at the fallen Shao clan elder and cried out in alarm, Uncle Yuan. However, by the time he and the rest of the Shao clan arrived in front of the Shao clan elder, the shocking crimson flames were already destroying his life force. The Shao clan elder was dead. Xiao Changfeng's eyes flashed with killing intent. Turning to Lu Yiping, he said, "It's you. You killed my Shao clan elder." Everyone stared at Lu Yiping. The Shao clan was one of the strongest clans in the Everlasting Dynasty. The Shao clan's old ancestor Shao Dong, the Everlasting Dynasty's old ancestor Tai Wuji, the Lei Ke Sword School's old ancestor Yang Cheng, and the Poison Shadow sect master Bai Luo were the four great experts of the Everlasting Dynasty. The death of a Shao clan life-sizer elder was no small matter. Lu Yiping said indifferently, "So what if I killed him? So what if he killed him?" His voice wasn't loud, but it was clearly heard by everyone. The surrounding experts were stunned, and their expressions turned strange. "You want to die?" Xiao Changfeng's expression turned cold. Just as he was about to order the Shao family members to attack, a large group of experts suddenly flew over from afar. It was the group of elders from the Lei Ke Sword School who had arrived first. Not far behind the elders of the Lei Ke Sword School were Princess Tai Yan, Jingyu, and the others. From afar, Princess Tai Yan, Jingyu, and the others saw Lu Yiping wielding the crimson flame sword. It's him." Princess Tai Yan's beautiful eyes went wide with disbelief. The genius swordsman who pulled out the crimson flame sword was this blue-robed young man? Tai Hongtao was also astonished. He had used his jade eyes to look at this young man, and found that he didn't have any true energy or internal energy. To put it bluntly, he was a mortal with a mortal body. And yet, this young man had pulled out the crimson flame sword. Zhengyu's expression darkened as she stared at the crimson flame sword in Lu Yiping's hand. When the elders and disciples of the Lei Ke Sword School saw Lu Yiping holding the crimson flame sword, they were also surprised. They exchanged glances. "You were the one who pulled out the crimson flame sword?" One of the Lei Ke Sword School elders looked at Lu Yiping suspiciously. Lu Yiping did not respond to that Lei Ke Sword School elder. At this time, the crimson flame lion stopped in front of Lu Yiping, prostrating on the ground. Its eyes were filled with fear as it saluted respectfully. Everyone was dumbfounded. What was going on? Even if this young man pulled out the crimson flame sword, there was no need for the crimson flame lion to be so respectful, right? Lu Yiping looked at the crimson flame lion prostrating respectfully in front of him, smiling faintly. "You little guy, I haven't seen you for so many years, but you haven't changed at all." He patted the crimson flame lion's head. Then, with a thought, the crimson flame lion returned to the crimson flame sword. The Lei Ke Sword School elder who doubted Lu Yiping was also dumbfounded. They had heard some legends about the crimson flame sword's crimson flame lion. It was said that the crimson flame lion's temperament was extremely violent. How did it become so docile in front of this young man? On top of that, it actually allowed this young man to pat its head. From this young man's tone, he seemed to know the crimson flame lion. But how was that possible? The crimson flame lion had been sealed inside the crimson flame sword for tens of thousands of years. How could this young man know it? At this time, more than a dozen sword lights pierced through the sky. Feeling the terrifying aura coming from the newcomer, everyone was shocked. Looking at the newcomer, many of the family's ancestors jumped in fright. It's Chen Hong, Senior Chen Hong." One of the family's ancestors exclaimed. All the experts present hurried to greet the newcomer, including Princess Tai Yan and the others. The newcomer was none other than Chen Hong. Behind Chen Hong were the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestors and Lei Ke Sword School's sect chief, Song Ning. "Greetings, seniors Chen Hong." Sect chief Song Ning. Before Chen Hong, Song Ning, and the rest arrived, Princess Tai Yan, Xiao Changfeng, Jingyu, and other experts were already shouting from afar. The younger generation of family disciples even knelt on the ground. Chen Hong was Yang Cheng's disciple, his seniority was extremely high. He was the Lei Ke Sword School's sect chief, Song Ning's martial granduncle. "Rise!" Chen Hong ordered everyone to rise. His gaze swept over the crowd, falling on Lu Yiping. Similar to the Lei Ke Sword School's elders, whether it was Chen Hong, Song Ning, or the rest, all of them were dumbfounded when they saw Lu Yiping holding the crimson flame sword. Chen Hong looked inquiringly at the Lei Ke Sword School's elders. One of the Lei Ke Sword School's elders stepped forward and cautiously said, "Ancestor, it was this young master who pulled out the crimson flame sword. Chen Hong was greatly disappointed when he heard the confirmation. With his cultivation and eyesight, he could tell at a glance that this young man was just an ordinary person. On the way here, he had wanted to test this sword genius who pulled out the crimson flame sword and take him as his last disciple. But now, he no longer had such thoughts. "Little guy, since you pulled out the crimson flame sword, follow me to see my master," Chen Hong said to Lu Yiping in a low voice. Hearing Chen Hong call him little guy, Lu Yiping asked indifferently, "You're that Chen Hong?" Hearing Lu Yiping directly call out Chen Hong's name, all the experts present paled. Chapter 8. Even the Lei Ke Sword School's sect master, Song Ning, was trembling in fear. Even though he was the Lei Ke Sword School's sect master, he had to be respectful in front of Chen Hong, not daring to breathe too loudly. Yet, this young master actually addressed him by his martial granduncle's name. Chen Hong was stunned. He obviously didn't expect Lu Yiping to call him by his full name. At this time, the Lei Ke Sword School's elders and grand elders reacted. Just as they were about to reprimand Lu Yiping, Chen Hong waved his hand to stop them. Then he smiled at Lu Yiping. "You're not afraid of me?" Lu Yiping looked at Chen Hong indifferently. "Are you very scary?" Millions of years ago, before he went into seclusion, he could crush someone like Chen Hong to death 10,000 times with a single finger. But now, Chen Hong was stunned. He looked at Lu Yiping and suddenly laughed. His laughter was hearty as he said, "You're right, I'm actually not scary." Then he smiled warmly. "What's your name?" "You'll know in the future." Lu Yiping shook his head. Chen Hong stared at Lu Yiping and laughed again. "Good, then I'll look forward to you telling me your name in the future." He was starting to like this young man in front of him. "Let's go, I'll take you to see my master." Chen Hong smiled. Lu Yiping nodded. He also wanted to ask Yang Cheng about Yang Dong's whereabouts. Everyone felt strange. At this time, anyone could see that not only did Chen Hong not blame Lu Yiping, he even praised him. Could it be that all big shots had this kind of weird habit, like people calling them by their full name? Before leaving, Lu Yiping looked at Lu Peng. Seeing this, Chen Hong asked, "He's with you?" Then he instructed the elder of Lei Ke Sword School to take Lu Peng to the inner hall to wait. Only then did Lu Yiping follow Chen Hong to Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral grounds. Chen Hong considered that Lu Yiping was immortal and couldn't fly. Therefore, he released a ball of true essence to lift Lu Yiping up and directly flew into the air. Xiao Changfeng looked at Lu Yiping who was taken away, and his face sank. Young patriarch, Elder Xiao Yuan, he. A Xiao family elder arrived behind Xiao Changfeng and said in a sorrowful voice. "Relax, Uncle Yuan won't die in vain." Xiao Changfeng said coldly. Princess Tai Yen looked at Lu Yiping who had been brought away by Chen Hong and asked Tai Hongtao, "Third uncle, is he really immortal?" Tai Hongtao knew what Princess Tai Yen was thinking, and he smiled wryly. "I used my jade eyes to check again, it's absolutely true." Princess Tai Yen frowned. "Immortal without a trace of true essence or god force can pull out the scarlet flame sword?" Tai Honghong shook his head. "This matter is indeed strange." He also couldn't understand how Lu Yiping managed to pull out the scarlet flame sword. In fact, he wasn't the only one who couldn't understand, no one else could. Jingyu chuckled, "Maybe we're all wrong. This scarlet flame sword requires a mortal physique. Only a mortal who has never cultivated before can pull it out." Everyone was stunned. Xiao Changfeng was also stunned. Was that really the case? Not long after, Lu Yiping followed Chen Hong and the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestors to the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral grounds. With a wave of his hands, Chen Hong opened the ancestral grounds restrictions and entered the ancestral grounds with Lu Yiping. Inside the ancestral grounds, there were mountain peaks that pierced the sky. Countless waterfalls flowed down the mountain peaks, and all kinds of exotic flowers and plants grew on the mountain peaks. Clouds and mist lingered on the mountain peaks. These clouds and mist were actually condensed from spiritual energy. Flying beasts could be seen high up in the sky. The sky was as blue as crystal, without a trace of impurities. The ancestral grounds and the outside world were like two different worlds. Chen Hong looked at the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral grounds, which resembled a fairyland. He smiled at Lu Yiping. This is your first time seeing such a fairyland, right? What do you think? My Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral grounds aren't bad, right? He sounded quite pleased with himself. Lu Yiping looked at the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral grounds and smiled faintly. It's just a so-so. Although the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral grounds weren't bad, it was still far from his sacred forest. Just a so-so. Chen Hong and the ancestors of the Lei Ke Sword School almost choked. Chen Hong looked at Lu Yiping and smiled. Little guy, I find that I'm more and more fond of your calm temperament. Then, he looked at Lu Yiping from head to toe. What a pity, with your aptitude. Otherwise, you could be my last disciple. Lu Yiping smiled. Be your last disciple? He remembered how that little guy, Yang Dong, had knelt in front of him for 10 days and 10 nights, begging him to accept him as an in-name disciple. But in the end, he didn't accept. He only allowed Yang Dong to stay in the sacred forest for a few years and occasionally gave him some pointers in sword techniques. Not long after, Chen Hong and the ancestors of the Lei Ke Sword School brought Lu Yiping to Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng was just as surprised to see Lu Yiping. He looked at Lu Yiping, then looked at the scarlet flame sword in Lu Yiping's hand. He couldn't connect Lu Yiping with the genius swordsman he had imagined to be able to pull out the scarlet flame sword. Just like Chen Hong, he was extremely disappointed. In fact, he was even more disappointed than Chen Hong. The scarlet flame sword was his father's sword. For so many years, he had been waiting for a peerless genius swordsman to pull out his father's sword and inherit his swordsmanship. He had waited for so many years, but now, it was pulled out by a mortal youth. Was this the will of the heavens? Yang Cheng looked at Lu Yiping and said solemnly, since you've pulled out the scarlet flame sword, then it's yours. I hope you cherish this sword. You can stay in the Lei Ke Sword School from now on. You can read my Lei Ke Sword School's sword technique manuals and practice them. Lu Yiping shook his head. I didn't come here for the scarlet flame sword. I have a lot of swords like this. As for sword technique manuals, I don't lack them either. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the rest were stunned. What did this young man mean? He had a lot of treasured swords like the scarlet flame sword. Yang Cheng frowned. It seemed like this young man didn't know what grade the scarlet flame sword was. At this time, a loud boom resounded between heaven and earth. The entire ancestral land shook violently as if it was hit by a primordial mountain. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others' faces changed. This is... An arrogant laughter resounded between heaven and earth. Yang Cheng brat, this old man, the sword demon Shilai, has arrived. Come out quickly and welcome this old man. The sword demon Shilai. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others' hearts sank. Outside the ancestral land, the various experts participating in the Lei Ke Sword School's disciple assessment were shocked when they heard the arrogant laughter. Princess Tai Yan's face changed. Sword demon Shilai. Could it be that sword demon Shilai who was defeated by Lord Sword God Yang Dong? Tai Hongtao's face was solemn. Legend has it that the sword demon Shilai had already reached the realm of a sword from another world. This time, he must have surpassed the realm of a sword from another world. The sword demon Shilai is cruel and bloodthirsty, sacrificing people to his sword. If Lord Yang Cheng is defeated this time, I'm afraid none of the tens of thousands of Lei Ke Sword School's disciples will survive. Chapter 9. While the crowd was still in an uproar, countless sword chi poured out from the void. These sword chi were filled with demon chi. They formed a black waterfall and blasted toward the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral ground. A loud explosion shook the sky. The entire Lei Ke Sword School shook. Some of the mountain peaks near the Thunder Ke Sword clan's ancestral land were struck by the aftershock of the sword chi and collapsed. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Countless boulders were sent flying and rolling down. Sand and dust billowed as if the end of the world was coming. Some disciples who could not dodge in time were hit by the boulders. Their flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Lightning sword energy. The sect leader of the Lei Ke sword school, Song Ning, shouted angrily. He flew into the air and channeled the true essence in his body. Sword chi shot out. At the same time, he summoned the void lightning and formed layers of lightning sword energy in his body. Lightning sword energy. This is the supreme sword technique of the Lei Ke sword school. It's a supreme technique that can summon the lightning of heaven and earth and merge it with one's sword chi. It can be used for both offense and defense. It's really powerful. And sect leader Song has already reached the 10th level. He has comprehended the essence of the lightning sword energy. Tai Hongtao of the Everlasting Dynasty exclaimed. At this moment, under everyone's anticipation, the Thunder K sword sect leader, Song Ning, whose entire body was covered in lightning and sword chi, faced the sword demon's heavy sword chi. When he arrived in front of the sword demon's sword chi, Song Ning slashed at it. A 10,000-meter-long sword chi pierced through the sky. From afar, it looked like a bridge in the sky. However, the moment the 10,000-meter-long sword chi hit the sword demon's sword chi, the sword demon's sword chi shone brightly. All the light in the world dimmed. Song Ning's 10,000-meter-long sword chi collapsed like a chicken. As for Song Ning himself, it was as if he had been hit by a giant object. He fell from the sky and crashed into the ground. Boom! The ground shook. A loud explosion rang in everyone's ears. Sand and dust billowed, and a giant crater appeared. Everyone was stunned. As the leader of the Lei Ke sword school, Song Ningyu's strength was undeniable. However, even after using the Lei Ke sword school's supreme sword technique, the Thunder Sword, he couldn't withstand a single blow from the sword demon's sword energy. The sword demon Jian Shilai laughed wildly, an ant trying to shake a mountain. You overestimate yourself. Junior, you've been hit by my sword demon Shilai's dead soul sword chi. In less than a day, your soul and primordial spirit will definitely explode. Even a golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven won't be able to save you. Hearing sword devil Shilai's maniacal laughter, everyone's heart sank. Didn't that mean that the sovereign of Lei Ke sword school, Song Ning, was going to? At this moment, a family expert was fleeing in panic. Just as he was about to leave the Lei Ke sword school's territory, he suddenly crashed into an invisible sword wall. Instantly, it was sliced into countless pieces by the sword chi of the invisible sword wall. Everyone was shocked. I've laid down a supreme sword array in the Lei Ke sword school's territory. Today, no one can leave. Sword demon Jian Shilai's cold voice sounded. Princess Tai Yan, Xiao Changfeng, Jingyu, and the other family's ancestors and patriarchs paled. Did sword demon Jian Shilai mean that not only was he going to destroy the Lei Ke sword school, but he was also going to kill everyone present? Many experts from the Limitless Dynasty were enraged by sword demon Jian Shilai's words. Xiao Changfeng said loudly, Senior Jian Shilai, I am Xiao family's Xiao Changfeng, ancestor Xiao Dong. We have nothing to do with the Lei Ke sword school. Senior Jian Shilai, please let us leave. Xiao Dong. Sword demon Jian Shilai chuckled, Kid, do you think I'll let you go just because you mentioned Xiao Dong? Today, even if Xiao Dong is here, he will die. The Xiao family's experts were enraged. Right at this moment, Yang Cheng's dignified voice suddenly sounded. Thunderclap Jiutian. In the next moment, streaks of shocking sword chi shot out from the ancestral land, straight into the Jiutian. These streaks of sword chi contained purple lightning. It was the purple lightning of annihilation. Even an Emperor Realm Master would be turned into dust in the face of this purple lightning of annihilation. Sword demon Jian Shilai looked at the streaks of purple lightning streaks of sword chi, laughing madly, Thunderclap Jiutian? It's quite interesting. He didn't show himself. Instead, he waved his hand. Countless streaks of devil sword chi rolled down like a raging river, carrying with them the power to destroy heaven and earth. Devil exterminating sword. The devil sword chi collided with the thunderclap Jotian. It was as if a series of lightning bolts exploded in the void. Smoke billowed out from the void. The originally sunny sky was completely covered by devil chi and smoke. Heaven and earth were plunged into darkness in an instant. The thunderclap Jotian's sword chi dissipated. Inside the ancestral land, Yang Cheng let out a muffled groan, blood trickling down from the corner of his mouth. Master! Chen Hong was shocked. The faces of the Lei Ke sword school's ancestors changed. It was obvious that Yang Cheng was injured from the previous attack. Sword demon Jian Shilai chuckled mischievously, Yang Cheng brat, although your thunderclap Jotian is powerful, it's only half as powerful as your father's in the past. Today, the Lei Ke sword school will be destroyed. Princess Tai Yen and the others, who originally had high hopes for Yang Cheng, turned gloomy. Even Yang Cheng couldn't resist this sword demon's power. Then, wouldn't they all die here today? At this time, astonishing sword chi condensed in the sky. Obviously, the sword demon was going to launch a destructive attack on the Lei Ke sword school's ancestral land. The ancestral hall is protected by divine light, quickly enter the hall and don't come out. Yang Cheng hurriedly said to Lu Yiping as he felt the terrifying sword chi condensing in the sky. Then, he shouted to Chen Hong and the Lei Ke sword school's ancestors, activate the Towering Heaven Sword Formation with all your might. The Towering Heaven Sword Formation was the strongest sword formation in the ancestral land. Sword god Yang Dong personally set it up in the past. In an instant, Chen Hong and the Lei Ke sword school's ancestors moved to their respective positions, forming hand seals to activate the Towering Heaven Sword Formation. Yang Cheng entered the Towering Heaven Sword Formation's core, no longer concealing his aura. His aura was like a tsunami, rolling out and engulfing the entire Jotian. Everyone was shocked by Yang Cheng's vast aura. At this time, the sword chi condensed by the sword demon turned into a sword mountain, crashing down. Under Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the rest's ancestors' full power, the Towering Heaven Sword Formation's sword chi burst out like an ocean, covering heaven and earth. The sword demon's sword mountain collided with the Towering Heaven Sword Formation's sword chi. Resounding booms rang in the air. Both sides were in a deadlock, neither side gaining the upper hand. Watching this, all the experts were excited. But in the next moment, a golden light burst out from the sword demon's sword mountain. The Towering Heaven Sword Formation's sword chi was blasted away in an instant. The sword demon's sword mountain directly slammed into the ancestral land. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the rest were sent flying as if they were hit by a heavy blow. Blood spurted out from their mouths. Sword demon Jian Shilai took a step forward, passing through the ancestral land's layers of restrictions, arriving in front of the ancestral hall. Divinity Aura, you've already passed the divinity tribulation. Yang Cheng looked at sword demon Jian Shilai in disbelief. Chen Hong and the Lei Ke sword school's ancestors were aghast. Past the divinity tribulation? In other words, sword demon Jian Shilai was already a divinity tribulation. Chapter 10. No wonder sword demon Jian Shilai dared to say that the Lei Ke sword school would be destroyed today. He had already ascended to godhood. Godhood was above all living beings. No matter how strong Yang Cheng was, as long as he didn't ascend to godhood, he was just a mortal in front of a god. Sword demon Jian Shilai was a thin old man. Looking at Yang Cheng, he laughed loudly, that's right, I've successfully passed my tribulation and ascended to godhood. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking at the Lei Ke sword school's fairyland-like ancestral land. Unfortunately, this place will cease to exist after today. Right at this time, an indifferent voice sounded, Godhood? You don't even have a godhead, yet you dare to call yourself a god? Sword demon Jian Shilai was stunned. Looking over, his gaze fell on Lu Yiping. Mortal. When he saw the crimson flame sword in Lu Yiping's hand, he exclaimed in surprise, Crimson Flame Sword. In the past, he was defeated by Yang Dong's Crimson Flame Sword. Junior, who are you? Sword demon Jian Shilai looked at the blue-robed young man in front of him with bewilderment. You're not qualified to know my name. Lu Yiping said nonchalantly. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestors were dumbfounded. Chen Hong had a strange expression on his face. Sword Demon Jian Shilai laughed loudly. I'm not qualified to know. Junior, in all these years, no one has ever dared to talk to me like this. His face twisted, and a suction force came from his hand. Come here. A terrifying force was sucked towards Lu Yiping in an instant. Just as Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others thought that Lu Yiping was about to be taken away by Sword Demon Jian Shilai, Lu Yiping stood there motionless. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others were dumbfounded. What was going on? Even Sword Demon Jian Shilai was stunned, looking at his palm. He stared at Lu Yiping in bewilderment. Devilish light surged from his body as his right hand suddenly reached out to grab Lu Yiping. Get over here. This time, a terrifying demonic power roared out, covering the sky and earth. It was as if a demon had descended upon the world. However, Lu Yiping was still standing there motionlessly despite the terrifying mana that engulfed him. How is this possible? Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others widened their eyes in shock. This bizarre scene left them dumbfounded. Sword Demon Shilai looked at Lu Yiping with a solemn face. He gathered all the divine power in his body and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you?" The way he addressed him had changed, and he no longer referred to him as a junior. Lu Yiping touched the crimson flame sword and said indifferently, "If you can catch this crimson flame sword, I'll let you leave." Catch this crimson flame sword? While Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others were still trying to figure out Lu Yiping's meaning, they saw Lu Yiping hurling the crimson flame sword as if he was throwing an insignificant object in front of him. The crimson flame sword did not leave its scabbard as it shot towards Sword Demon Jian Shilai. Its speed was not fast, and it did not have the slightest bit of power. Sword Demon Jian Shilai was surprised by the crimson flame sword, but he did not dare to be careless. He circulated his divine power and reached out to grab the crimson flame sword. However, when his hand touched the crimson flame sword, the crimson flame sword's momentum did not stop, and it actually repelled his palm. Sword Demon Jian Shilai threw it at his chest. When the crimson flame sword hit Sword Demon Jian Shilai's chest, he felt as if he was hit by an ancient chaos mountain. His entire body was sent flying like a falling meteor, crashing into a mountain peak far away from the ancestral land. A loud bang resounded as the mountain peak exploded, but it did not stop there. He crashed into another mountain peak behind. Sword Demon Jian Shilai crashed into several mountain peaks in a row before crashing to the ground from high up in the sky. His throat felt warm, and he couldn't hold it in any longer, spurting out golden blood. Golden blood splattered on the ground, reflecting a dazzling golden light. Yang Cheng was dumbfounded. Chen Hong was dumbfounded. All the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestors were dumbfounded. Lu Yiping looked indifferently at Sword Demon Jian Shilai, who was spurting out golden blood. With this little strength, you dare to call yourself a god? You can't even withstand a sword, yet you dare to call yourself a god? Sword Demon Jian Shilai spurted out more golden blood after hearing Huang Xiaolong's words. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestors looked at Lu Yiping in disbelief. Sword Demon Jian Shilai, who had already passed the God Realm tribulation and ascended to the God Realm, couldn't even withstand his sword. Moreover, it was a sword that was not even drawn from its scabbard, a sword that was casually thrown out. If the Scarlet Flame sword was drawn out from its scabbard, wouldn't Sword Demon Jian Shilai have already? Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the rest shuddered, not daring to imagine further. At this time, Sword Demon Jian Shilai struggled to his feet, looking at Lu Yiping in shock and anger. The fear in his eyes was hard to conceal. He took a deep breath, trying his best to suppress the fear in his heart. Suddenly, he turned into countless sword lights. That's right, they were sword lights, not sword chi. Sword of Eternity. Indifferent, Sword Demon Jian Shilai bellowed, his voice was like a thunderclap. In the blink of an eye, the countless sword lights reached Lu Yiping's front. When the countless sword lights pierced out, time seemed to slow down. These sword lights seemed to become eternal, and an eternal power from time and space rushed out from the sword lights. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the rest were aghast. Sword of Eternity. The Sword of Eternity was a sword Dao that surpassed the sword Dao of the outer space. For example, Yang Cheng's thunderclap Jiutian's sword Qi was strong, but it dissipated quickly after the impact. However, the Sword of Eternity was different. The Sword of Eternity's power could exist between heaven and earth for a long time. Yang Cheng and the rest didn't expect that sword demon Jian Shilai had not only ascended to the god realm, but his sword Dao had also reached such a shocking realm. Just as the Sword of Eternity's sword Qi was about to pierce through Lu Yiping's body, the sword Qi suddenly stopped 10 meters away from Lu Yiping, as if it had encountered an unshakable force. The sword Qi couldn't advance half an inch further. Lu Yiping's face was calm, and he blew a breath of air forward. The Sword of Eternity's sword Qi scattered like sand in the wind, disappearing without a trace. As for sword demon Jian Shilai, he was sent flying again, rolling far away. His divine robe was torn apart, and his scalp was disheveled. Streaks of blood appeared on his body. After passing the divine tribulation and becoming a god, one's body could be said to be a god's body that was difficult to destroy. But now, streaks of blood appeared on his body, as if it would collapse at any time. Yang Cheng and the rest were shocked beyond words. Sword demon Jian Shilai's strength was no weaker than the Lei Ke Sword School's god of swords Yang Dong, but now, he was lying there like a dead dog. Was he trying to kill a god? Yang Cheng felt his breathing stop. At the same time, he was even more frightened and uneasy. Who was this young man? Why would such a terrifying existence descend on his Lei Ke Sword School? Chapter 11. After a long time, sword demon Shilai struggled to his feet. He looked at Lu Yiping with eyes full of fear. He was extremely confident in his Sword of Eternity. Even if sword god Yang Dong was alive, he might not be able to withstand it. But now, the young man in front of him broke it with a single breath. He swallowed hard, his voice hoarse. Who are you? Have you already reached the true god realm? True god. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestors trembled. They held their breaths as they looked at Lu Yiping. True god? However, Lu Yiping merely smiled calmly. Sword demon Shilai, Yang Cheng, and the others were stunned when they saw Lu Yiping's indifferent smile. There was a hint of contempt in that smile. I'm from the sacred forest. Lu Yiping said slowly. His voice wasn't loud. It was a little cold. However, it was more terrifying than the god's tribulation lightning. Sword demon Shilai, Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestors felt their minds buzzing. Whether it was sword demon Shilai, Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, or the others, their faces were filled with fear. Sword demon Shilai, who had just struggled to get up, suddenly felt his legs go soft, and he fell to the ground. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestors were trembling. God, sacred, forest. Sword demon Shilai's tongue stiffened. Sacred forest. These 4 words seemed to carry a supreme power that silenced heaven and earth. He didn't have any thoughts left. Senior, you are. Yang Cheng's eyes widened as he stuttered. Lu Yiping glanced at Yang Cheng and threw him a token. When Yang Cheng saw the command medallion, he was shocked. He didn't dare to hesitate any longer. Trembling with excitement, he prostrated himself before Lu Yiping. Lei Ke Sword School's Yang Dong's son, Yang Cheng, kowtows to your excellency. May your excellency live forever. We didn't know that your excellency was coming and didn't welcome you. We deserve to die. When Chen Hong and the ancestors of the Lei Ke Sword School saw Yang Cheng's expression, how could they not know that Lu Yiping was a supreme existence? They were so scared that they prostrated themselves on the ground. Looking at Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others who were prostrating themselves on the ground, Lu Yiping wasn't surprised. He said indifferently, "Get up, I came out of seclusion this time just to drop by the Lei Ke Sword School to see that brat Yang Dong." Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others cautiously got up, but they didn't dare to straighten their backs. Their bodies remained bent, not daring to breathe too loudly. Suddenly, Sword Demon Shilai cupped his fists and said, "So, Your Excellency is that lord from the sacred forest. I come from the Dark Demon Hall. I hope Your Excellency can spare my life for the sake of the Dark Demon Hall." "What, Dark Demon Hall?" Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others were shocked. The Dark Demon Hall was a mysterious force that emerged in the last 10,000 years. It was now one of the strongest forces in Hengyuan world. Yang Cheng and the others didn't expect Sword Demon Shilai to join the Dark Demon Hall. "That's right, Dark Demon Hall." Sword Demon Shilai laughed. Lu Yiping suddenly reached out and pulled Sword Demon Shilai in front of him. Sword Demon Shilai was shocked. "You? Dark Demon Hall? Never heard of it." Lu Yiping said indifferently, and a streak of lightning appeared in his hand. Sword Demon Shilai was alarmed when he felt the lightning's destructive power. "My Dark Demon Hall's Hall Master is a supreme existence that you can't imagine." Although Sword Demon Shilai knew about the sacred forest's legend, it was only a legend. He had personally witnessed the Dark Demon Hall's Hall Master's terrifying strength. Unimaginable supreme existence. Lu Yiping chuckled hearing Sword Demon Shilai's words. "Then I'd like to see for myself." The Heaven and Earth Cauldron appeared in his hand. The Heaven and Earth Cauldron was filled with a gold-like yet not gold-like energy. It was the heaven-opening mysterious yellow energy. While Sword Demon Shilai was still in shock, the Heaven and Earth Cauldron sucked the energy into the cauldron. The cauldron's grand formation was activated, about to refine the energy. Suddenly, a black ball of light burst out from Sword Demon Shilai's body. Then, above the ancestral land, a giant black palm appeared, blotting out the sun. "Audacious! Who dares to touch my Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elder?" The giant black palm abruptly slammed down on Lu Yiping. Heaven and Earth destructive power wreaked havoc. This destructive power was many times stronger than Sword Demon Shilai's Sword of Eternity. Looking at the giant black palm crashing down, Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the rest were horrified. "This is the power of a true god?" Lu Yiping snorted coldly. His fist punched out casually. A giant golden fist imprint pierced through the giant black palm in an instant. Lu Yiping's golden fist imprint did not stop there. It pierced through layers of space, passing through layers of space-time. Separated by layers of space-time, Sword Demon Hall's golden fist imprint slammed into a giant shrine thousands of miles away. Rays of light surged from the giant shrine as layers of grand formation energy shot out in an attempt to block Sword Demon Hall's golden fist imprint. But it was useless. Under the golden fist imprint, layers of grand formation energy exploded like clay chickens and pottery dogs. The golden fist imprint slammed into the giant shrine. Boom! The giant shrine that occupied an area of God knows how many miles exploded into countless fragments like sand. Inside the temple, a roar of anger could be heard. A figure soared to the sky. At this time, Lu Yiping reached out across layers of space-time, and a giant claw slammed down. That figure looked at the descending claw with fear and despair. "God of blood, escape! Open for me!" Blood light burst out from his body as he exhausted all of his spirit essence, turning into a streak of light. Just as he fled, Lu Yiping's giant claw slammed down. Bang! The giant claw slammed down, turning all the mountain peaks below and around the shrine into dust. Lu Yiping retracted his power and said indifferently, running away pretty fast. Seeing this, he did not pursue. The other party was hit by the aftershock of Huang Xiaolong's fist force, and he had used the blood escape art to escape at the cost of his spirit essence. He was gravely injured, and it would take at least several hundred years for him to recover. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others were shocked beyond words. Although they did not see the scene outside the layers of space-time, they knew that Lu Yiping had fought with the Dark Demon Hall's true God Realm expert, and it was the Dark Demon Hall's expert who was defeated. Rays of light burst out from the Heaven and Earth Cauldron in Lu Yiping's hand, and the grand formation was fully activated. Sword Demon Shilai screamed in horror, and soon, golden pellets flew out from the Heaven and Earth Cauldron. The fragrance of the golden pellets filled the ancestral land, and on the surface of the golden pellets, rays of divine light intertwined. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others stared at the golden pellets, unable to calm down. Sword Demon Shi Lai, a God Realm expert who had crossed the God Realm tribulation, was refined into a God Realm gold pellet just like that. A God Realm expert who had devoured heaven and earth's spiritual energy, comprehended heaven and earth's law, and condensed his God force into a golden pellet. The value of this golden pellet was self-evident. Chapter 12. These gold cores, each of you take 2. Lu Yiping said. The gold cores flew out and landed in front of Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others. Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others stared at the gold cores in front of them in disbelief. Then, Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the others excitedly knelt on the ground. Thank you, Lord, for bestowing these gold cores. Stand up. Lu Yiping didn't mind, these are just some defective products. Yang Cheng and the others choked on their saliva. The gold cores refined by a God Realm expert who had crossed the God Realm's tribulation were actually defective? Could it be that only a true God who had condensed his Godhead could refine a gold core that was qualified? Due to the restriction formation protecting the ancestral land, Princess Tai Yan, Xiao Changfeng, Jingyu, and other experts couldn't see the battle happening inside the ancestral land. Seeing Sword Demon Shi Lai enter the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral land, everyone felt uneasy. I wonder how Senior Yang Cheng and the others are doing now. Princess Tai Yan was like an ant on a hot pan. Tai Hongtao sighed, I'm afraid Senior Yang Cheng and the others are in a precarious situation. Senior Yang Cheng and the others had already activated the High Heaven Sword formation, but they couldn't stop Sword Demon Shi Lai. The Lei Ke Sword School's High Heaven Sword formation is the strongest divine formation. Unless Lord Sword God Yang Dong is still alive. Otherwise. Princess Tai Yan and the others fell into despair hearing Tai Hongtao's words. Lord Sword God Yang Dong had been missing for several tens of thousands of years. Naturally, it was impossible for him to appear. The entire Lei Ke Sword School was filled with panic and despair. While everyone was panicking and despairing, a figure suddenly flew out from the ancestral land. The person who came out was none other than Chen Hong. Earlier, Chen Hong and the others were injured by Sword Demon Shi Lai's sword Qi, but now, there wasn't a trace of injury on them. Everyone was surprised to see Chen Hong come out unscathed. Everyone, the Sword Devil Shi Lai has been killed by the seniors of our Lei Ke Sword School. Don't worry, Chen Hong stood in the air and said. His voice spread to all the peaks of the Lei Ke Sword School. What? Sword Demon Shi Lai has been killed. Who killed Sword Demon? Could it be the Sword God Yang Dong? Instantly, there was an uproar. Everyone was shocked. Everyone had witnessed Sword Demon Shi Lai's strength with their own eyes. Even Yang Cheng, Chen Hong, and the rest of the Lei Ke Sword School's patriarchs couldn't withstand his attack even when they activated the Towering Heaven Sword formation. Now, Chen Hong came out unscathed and announced that Sword Demon Shi Lai had been killed. Princess Tai Yan, Xiao Changfeng, and the others were equally shocked. Chen Hong's gaze swept over the experts present and said, the assessment will proceed as normal. Elder, please maintain order. He then led Song Ning, who was injured by Sword Demon's sword Qi, into the ancestral land. Watching Chen Hong bring Song Ning into the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral land, the crowd was in an uproar. Could it be that the Sword God Yang Dong is still alive? Princess Tai Yan was bewildered. He has been cultivating in seclusion in the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral land? Tai Hongtao's expression was solemn. Even if he isn't the Sword God Yang Dong, he is an existence on par with the Sword God Yang Dong. Having such a terrifying existence in the Lei Ke Sword School was not a good thing for the Limitless Empire. While Princess Tai Yan, Xiao Changfeng, and the others were speculating, a middle-aged man fell from a primeval forest somewhere in the Hengyuan world plain, vomiting blood. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. His godhead was the 99 Limitless Godhead, one of the supreme godheads between heaven and earth. It was hailed as one of the toughest and strongest godheads in the world, with an invincible defense. Yet, the other party's mere fist force had cracked his supreme godhead. His godhead nearly exploded. Lei Ke Sword School? He muttered to himself, then took out his communication talisman and crushed it, sending out an order. One day passed. Night fell. Lu Yiping stood in the air above the Lei Ke Sword School's ancestral hall, looking at the beautiful night sky, but he was deep in thought. From Yang Cheng's words, he had learned that 40,000 years ago, Yang Dong had received a message from a mysterious person and had gone to the god's battlefield. However, after going to the god's battlefield, there had been no news of Yang Dong. The god's battlefield. Lu Yiping muttered to himself. In the past, the god's great war had fallen, and blood flowed like a river. Even the earth was pierced through, and the sky was riddled with holes. The tragedy of the Great War was deeply imprinted in Huang Xiaolong's mind. He was the only survivor from the god's Great War. The reason he could survive was not only because of his strength, but also because of his innate treasure, the universe cauldron. It seems like I have to make a trip to the god's battlefield. Huang Xiaolong had a feeling that the god's Great War was part of someone's scheme. This time, he came out to explore the god's battlefield. While Lu Yiping was thinking about the god's Great War, in another hall, Chen Hong came to Yang Cheng and said, "Master, there's something I want to report to you." Today, at the sword rampart, when Lord Lu pulled out the scarlet flame sword, Shao family's elder Shao Yuan tried to snatch it, but was killed by Lord Lu. Shao Changfeng and the Shao family's experts wanted to attack Lord Lu. After listening to Chen Hong's report, Yang Cheng's expression changed, and he said sternly, "Why did you only report this to me now?" Chen Hong mumbled, "You were with Lord Lu the whole time today." Yang Cheng's expression relaxed, and he said in a deep voice, "Pass down the order, expel all Shao family's disciples from the Lei Ke Sword School." Chen Hong was startled, and he said respectfully, "Understood, Master. I'll have Song Ning do it." Although Song Ning was hit by Sword Demon Shi Lai's dead soul's sword chi, it had been cleansed by Lu Yiping. In a courtyard of the Lei Ke Sword School's inner disciples, the Shao family's disciples were congratulating Shao Changfeng for successfully entering the Lei Ke Sword School today and winning first place in the exam. A Shao family's disciple said with a smile, "Young Master won first place in the exam. With young Master's talent, Senior Chen Hong will definitely accept young Master as his last disciple." Shao Changfeng nodded and smiled. "That young man with a mortal body, has he left the ancestral land?" Shao Changfeng changed the topic and asked. "Not yet," a Shao family's disciple hurriedly replied. Shao Changfeng's eyes turned cold. "Once he leaves the Lei Ke Sword School, capture him. Don't kill him yet, I want him alive." "Yes, young Master." But at this time, a Shao family's disciple ran in a panic. "Young Master, something happened. I just received news that Sect Master Song Ning just gave the order to expel all Shao family's disciples from the Lei Ke Sword School." Shao Changfeng and the others were stunned. "I'm afraid the news is fake," Shao Changfeng said. Their Shao family's relationship with the Lei Ke Sword School was pretty good. Moreover, Song Ning had no reason to do this. The news is absolutely true. That Shao family's disciple said anxiously. Moreover, Song Ning gave the order that all Shao family's disciples must leave the Lei Ke Sword School's mountain gate within half an hour. Shao Changfeng was furious. Is Song Ning crazy? Why would he do this? Chapter 13. The Shao family members looked at each other. They couldn't understand why Song Ning would do this. Shao Changfeng was fuming when he saw a large group of Lei Ke Sword School's law enforcement disciples rushing over from afar. The one leading them was surprisingly the Lei Ke Sword School's law enforcement hall master, Yan Ming. When Yan Ming arrived, he swept his gaze over the experts of the Shao clan. His gaze landed on Shao Changfeng. The sect leader has given the order to expel all disciples of the Shao clan from the Thunder Ke Sword sect. Within half an hour, all of them are to leave the Thunder Ke Sword sect. Shao Changfeng suppressed his anger. Indifferent, he looked at Yan Ming. Why? He couldn't understand why Song Ning would suddenly order the expulsion of all Shao family disciples. Moreover, he had just passed the test today, and Song Ning expelled him. What was the meaning of this? Yan Ming didn't respond to Shao Changfeng. He said to the law enforcement disciples behind him, Sect Master said that all Shao family disciples are not allowed to take anything from Lei Ke Sword School when they leave. When all Shao family disciples leave later, they must be inspected before they can leave. Shao Changfeng's face turned ugly when he heard this. Song Ning's meaning was that if a Shao family disciple had anything from Lei Ke Sword School, they wouldn't be able to leave even if they wanted to. I want to see Song Ning. Shao Changfeng's face was gloomy. Yan Ming shook his head. If you want to see Sect Master, wait until your father arrives. Shao Changfeng's face turned even uglier. Did Yan Ming mean that he didn't have the qualifications? Half an hour later, Shao Changfeng and a group of Shao family disciples stood at the foot of Lei Ke Sword School's mountain with ashen faces. Song Ning is going too far. A Shao family expert shouted angrily. Young master, that young man, should we continue to monitor him? A Shao family disciple hesitantly stepped forward and asked. Shao Changfeng's face was gloomy as he shook his head. Return to Shao family's headquarters first. That young man won't be able to escape. Inside Lei Ke Sword School, all the experts were surprised when they saw the Shao family disciples being driven out. Originally, they thought that the order to expel Shao family disciples was a rumor, but they didn't expect it to be true. Except, like Shao Changfeng and the others, the various experts similarly could not figure out why Song Ning would do this. Tai Hongtao, who was standing beside Princess Tai Yan, suddenly said, expelling the Shao clan's disciples should be Senior Chen Hong's idea. Expelling all of the Shao clan's disciples wasn't something Song Ning could decide. Princess Tai Yan was bewildered. Senior Chen Hong? But why would Senior Chen Hong do this? Tai Hongtao shook his head. I don't understand either. Also, I just received news that Senior Chen Hong wants to accept a female disciple named Lu Xiaoyu as his last disciple. Lu Xiaoyu? Princess Tai Yan was surprised. Is this Lu Xiaoyu very talented? It's just the Dian sword body. Tai Hongtao said, I also found out that this Lu Xiaoyu is only a disciple of a second-rate sect, the Azura sect. Moreover, this Azura sect was annihilated by the Thousand Devils sect 3 years ago. Princess Tai Yan frowned. Chen Hong expelled a genius with a high-grade divine physique like Shao Changfeng. Now, he was accepting an unknown girl named Lu Xiaoyu, who didn't even have an ordinary divine physique, as his last disciple. She couldn't figure out why Chen Hong would do this. I've already inquired about the young man with the scarlet flame sword. His name is Lu Yiping. Tai Hongtao said, as for which family he belongs to, I haven't found out yet. Oh right, Lu Xiaoyu came to Lei Ke Sword School with this Lu Yiping on the way to participate in the assessment. Princess Tai Yan was stunned. She was with the blue-robed young man, Lu Yiping. Then, the girl sitting beside Lu Yiping was Lu Xiaoyu. She pondered deeply. The battlefield of the gods was the battlefield of the ancient gods. Although it had been countless years since the war, the battlefield of the gods was still filled with terrifying divine power and ancient grand formations and restrictions everywhere. Therefore, the battlefield of the gods was deserted. Usually, very few people would come here. On this day, a golden chariot slowly approached the border of the battlefield of the gods. The battlefield of the gods was filled with a deathly aura, shrouded in a boundless grey aura of death. The arrival of the golden chariot brought a touch of radiance to this boundless grey aura. The golden chariot stopped at the border of the battlefield of the gods. Lu Yiping sat in the chariot, looking at the boundless battlefield of the gods in front of him with complicated feelings. How many of his good friends had fallen here during the War of the Gods? Not even their corpses were intact. Xiao Jin, let's go, Lu Yiping said after stopping for a while. Taurus Longjiao took a step forward, slowly advancing. The chariot broke through the deathly aura of the battlefield of the gods and entered it. Not long after, it disappeared into the grey deathly aura. Lu Yiping looked at the dense deathly aura around him and frowned. After so many years, the deathly aura here should have dissipated long ago, but it was still so strong. Obviously, someone had set up a supreme array here, causing the deathly aura here to condense and not dissipate. And it was getting stronger and stronger. Who was it? Could it be the mastermind behind the War of the Gods? Thinking of this, Lu Yiping's eyes glinted coldly. The chariot continued forward. Suddenly, a monster with blood-red eyes and a body full of deathly aura broke through the air, pouncing toward Lu Yiping. This was a dead spirit born from the deathly aura of the battlefield of the gods. In the battlefield of the gods, besides dead spirits, there were also corpses. These dead spirits and corpses usually devoured the deathly aura of the gods to cultivate, and their cultivations were powerful. This was also the reason why many experts in the Hengyuan plane did not dare to enter the battlefield of the gods. However, when this dead spirit came to the air above the chariot, it suddenly stopped. Then, as if it was strangled by an invisible force, it instantly drifted away and disappeared between heaven and earth. The chariot did not stop. It was not affected at all. A day passed. Lu Yiping came to a mountain peak. This mountain peak was strangely shaped, like a sharp blade piercing the sky. The mountain peak was as smooth as a mirror, exuding an aura that made one's heart palpitate. Soul Lock Purgatory Array. Looking at this huge mountain peak, Lu Yiping's eyes turned cold. The Soul Lock Purgatory Array was one of the top 10 ancient divine arrays. It should be the effect of the Soul Lock Purgatory Array that the deathly aura of the battlefield of the gods did not dissipate after so many years. The eye of the Soul Lock Purgatory Array was at the bottom of this mountain peak. There were layers of restrictions on the mountain peak. However, Lu Yiping directly drove the chariot, passing through the layers of restrictions on the mountain peak, and went to the bottom of the mountain peak. After a while, he came to a different space. The space was very big, and there were rivers of death everywhere. In the middle of the space was a huge altar. On the altar, the Soul Lock Purgatory Array was operating, and the deathly aura of the battlefield of the gods was constantly being transported here. The deathly aura here was so dense that it was almost tangible, floating in mid-air, forming liquid clouds. Even if it was an ancient emperor or a great emperor, if they entered here, they would be contaminated by the deathly aura and would be instantly corroded. Lu Yiping's gaze fell on the 4 figures on the altar that were wrapped in deathly aura. Chapter 14. The 4 figures emanated shocking godly might. And yet, they emanated an intense aura of death, and were completely devoid of any life force. Clearly, they were corpses. Furthermore, they were corpses that had already gained sentience. Furthermore, these corpses had all been true gods when they were alive. Above the life-seizing level were the legendaries, and above that were the Deva realm, the ancients, the grand emperors, the god spirits, the true gods, and the heaven gods. True gods were definitely the most powerful entities in the eternal element plane. And now, these 4 true gods had died, and their corpses had been turned into corpses. Furthermore, they were using the soul-sealing purgatory spell formation to work on their cultivation. Lu Yiping walked over to the altar. Because he didn't conceal his aura, the 4 true god corpses woke up and looked over at Lu Yiping. Roar! The 4 corpses roared and pounced on Lu Yiping at the same time. Taurus Longjiao was just about to make a move, when Lu Yiping said, "No need. I'll do it." With that, he waved his finger. An invisible wave of power swept out like a tidal wave. The 4 corpses were sent tumbling backward. Next, Lu Yiping waved his hand, pulling the corpses in front of him. No matter how they struggled, they couldn't break free. Lu Yiping waved his finger, sending 4 beams of light into the foreheads of the 4 corpses. The 4 corpses were under someone else's control, and Yang Qi wanted to remove the restrictive spells from their minds. Very soon, the 4 corpses that were originally madly struggling and roaring stopped struggling and quieted down. Next, Lu Yiping waved his right hand, causing countless magical symbols to fly out. These magical symbols were formed from the magical laws of a boundless great Tao. In the blink of an eye, the magical symbols entered the four corpses' foreheads and branded themselves into their minds. Even as Lu Yiping removed the restrictive spells from the four corpses' minds, in another dimension in the battlefield of the gods, a gray-haired old man who emanated a wretched aura opened his eyes. The gray-haired old man looked surprised. Someone actually removed the restrictive spells from the four corpses he controlled? Who was it? The restriction on these four ancient corpses was something he had planted when he had just entered the divine spirit realm. Since the other party was able to remove it, it meant that the other party was at least a divine spirit. Gods? The old man sneered. He rose to his feet and tore the rift apart, heading straight for the soul-sealing purgatory formation. Just as the old man rushed over, Lu Yiping turned his head to look at the void. His expression was indifferent. He had come rather quickly. He removed the restriction on the four corpses in order to lure the person controlling them over. Master, leave this thing to me. Taurus Longjiao sensed the aura of the other party and said. Keep him alive later. Lu Yiping looked at the excited Taurus Longjiao and said, don't torture him to death. Don't worry, master. I won't kill him. Taurus Longjiao grinned. Not long after the golden dragon horn ox finished speaking, a bright light flashed in the sky, and a person appeared. It was the gray-haired old man who had rushed over earlier. With a glance, the gray-haired old man saw the four corpses standing motionlessly in the same spot. He looked at Lu Yiping and Taurus Longjiao. When he found that Lu Yiping did not have a trace of god force or true essence, he was bewildered. Taurus Longjiao looked at the gray-haired old man and grinned, mid-stage true god realm, not bad. I wonder what kind of godhead it is. The gray-haired old man, Wuimo, was shocked. He looked at Taurus Longjiao. This ox could see his cultivation realm. Who are you? Wuimo asked. Wuimo, who was about to attack, hesitated. Lu Yiping did not speak. Taurus Longjiao leaped into the air and slowly walked towards the gray-haired old man. Little guy, don't say that this old ox is bullying the weak. Make your move. Taurus Longjiao shook his head and laughed. His laughter was harmless to humans and animals. Wu Mo's face darkened when he heard what Taurus Longjiao said, playing tricks. 10,000 ghosts devour God. Shocking ghost chi roared out like a world-destroying sea. It turned into 10,000 evil ghosts and charged towards Taurus Longjiao. Each of these evil ghosts had the power of a god realm cultivator. Each of them was not weaker than the sword demon Shilai. Moreover, there were 10,000 of them. However, Taurus Longjiao did not even look at them. He slapped his ox leg forward. In an instant, it was as if the sun had exploded. Billions of rays of golden light shot out. The 10,000 ghosts were instantly pierced through by the golden light. As for the gray-haired old man, Wuimo, he was sent flying and crashed into a huge dead river in the distance. The dead river exploded and the dead water splashed everywhere. Taurus Longjiao swayed his ox tail and came to the top of the dead river. He looked at the bottom of the dead river and said, "Come out, little guy. I only used 1/1000th of my power. You won't die." The surface of the dead river exploded and the gray-haired old man, Wuimo, broke out from the river. Wuimo looked at Taurus Longjiao and his eyes were filled with fear. Although he was a mid-stage true god realm cultivator, his battle power was strong. He could even fight a late-stage true god realm expert. But this golden ox. Just now, did he really use 1/1000th of his power? Wuimo suddenly turned into a streak of gray light in a flicker, grabbing at Lu Yiping. Lu Yiping smiled indifferently. It seemed like the other party thought he was a pushover. Just as Wuimo was about to grab Lu Yiping harumphed coldly. His harumph was like the 9 layers of lightning tribulation. Wumo's body trembled and he fell from the sky. The divine armor on his body shattered and his mouth, eyes, nose, and ears were covered in blood. You guys. Wuimo looked at Lu Yiping in horror. This young man was even more terrifying than the golden ox. Taurus Longjiao walked over with a grin on his face. "Little guy, in the ancient times, even the master of myriad gods didn't dare to attack my master. Don't think that my master is weak and fragile, he's much stronger than this old ox. Ancient times? The master of myriad gods? Wu Mo's heart was in turmoil. What kind of monsters were this pair of master and servant? 100,000 years ago was the late antiquity era. Further back was the middle antiquity era. Even further back was the ancient era. How long had this pair of master and servant lived? Even the master of myriad gods didn't dare to attack them. But, how could a human live for so long? Even if it was an existence surpassing the heavenly god realm, it was impossible for them to live for so long. While Wu Mo's imagination was running wild, Lu Yiping asked indifferently, "You arranged the soul-sealing purgatory array?" Wu Mo swallowed hard. "Yes, I arranged it. I happened to obtain the soul-sealing purgatory array's secret manual in the battlefield of gods. However, the manual was incomplete, so my arrangement wasn't complete." No wonder. Lu Yiping had been wondering how many corners of the soul-sealing purgatory array's structure were missing. Suddenly, Wu Mo fell to his knees, sobbing, "Lord, although I've cultivated the evil ghost cultivation technique, I've never killed anyone. I hope Lord can spare my life on account that it wasn't easy for me to cultivate." Chapter 15. No Bloodthirst. Lu Yiping suddenly flicked his finger and a ray of sacred light entered Wu Mo's body. When the sacred light entered Wu Mo's body, resentful spirits suddenly flew out from his body. The resentful spirits soared into the sky and covered the entire space. There were at least tens of millions of resentful spirits. It was obvious that Wu Mo had killed countless experts in order to cultivate the evil ghost cultivation method. These resentful spirits were the souls of the experts he had devoured. "You have so many resentful spirits in your body and you say you didn't kill anyone?" Lu Yiping's face turned cold. Wu Mo's face changed. He didn't expect Lu Yiping to force all the resentful spirits out of his body with a casual flick of his finger. Suddenly, he turned into countless wisps of death energy and fled into the void. Running away. Taurus Longjiao chuckled. He suddenly raised his head and let out a deafening roar that shook heaven and earth. Under the impact of the roar, the entire space began to crack. It was as if the earth was cracking. Violent chaotic space energy poured out in a frenzy. Under the violent chaotic space energy, Wu Mo, who had turned into a wisp of death energy, fell from the void and crashed to the ground. His body was covered in blood. He looked at Taurus Longjiao with horror and fear. It was the kind of fear that reached deep into his soul. Previously, he had some guesses about Taurus Longjiao's strength. However, he discovered that Taurus Longjiao's strength was far beyond his understanding. How strong was space? However, Taurus Longjiao only needed to roar once to make space collapse. Looking at Wu Mo, who was on the verge of death, Lu Yiping made a suction force with one hand and pulled Wu Mo before him. Then, he searched his soul. After a while, Lu Yiping stopped. He had been living in seclusion in the holy forest for too long. He didn't know the current situation in the eternal plane. After searching the gray-haired old man's soul, he knew a lot about the current situation in the eternal plane. After searching his soul, Wu Mo was about to speak when he saw a giant purple lightning bolt crashing down from the void. Looking at the purple lightning bolt, Wu Mo's face changed. Was this the void lightning? The void lightning had never appeared in the world since the ancient times. Ever since the ancient times, no one had been able to summon the void lightning. The young man in front of him could actually summon the void lightning. Could he really be an old monster from the ancient times? At this moment, the void lightning descended. Wu Mo's vision turned black, and he lost consciousness. After destroying Wu Mo's soul, Lu Yiping pointed forward and Wu Mo's body turned into countless pieces of flesh and blood. Then, Wu Mo's flesh and blood turned into 4 small streams that flowed into the 4 ancient corpses. Wu Mo was a mid-stage ancient god realm expert, his vitality and god force were boundless. With Wu Mo's flesh and blood pouring into the corpses, the 4 ancient corpses that were filled with terrifying death chi gradually dissipated, and new flesh and blood started to grow at a speed visible to the naked eyes. After a dozen or so breaths, the 4 corpses had completely transformed and were completely alive. The originally withered hair of the 4 people had completely turned black. Eye of Reincarnation, appear. Lu Yiping suddenly grabbed at the void. A giant vortex appeared in the void, and at the center of the vortex was a strange eye. This eye seemed to be able to see through everything in this world, as if it could gather all life and death in this world. Lu Yiping's eyes emitted a terrifying light that shone on the reincarnation vortex. Then, with a suction force, the 4 souls were sucked out and sent into the 4 ancient corpses by Lu Yiping. The eye of reincarnation disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lu Yiping took out 4 divine armors from the heaven and earth cauldron and threw them to the 4 people, put them on. Yes, Master. The 4 people answered in unison. After Lu Yiping's reversal of yin and yang, the 4 of them were no different from true God realm experts except for the lack of godheads. After the 4 of them put on the divine armors, Lu Yiping sent Wu Mo's godhead into one of the 4 people's soul seas. Even the Master of Gods in the ancient times couldn't merge another person's godhead into another person's soul sea because there were too many factors involved. But Lu Yiping did it. And it was effortless. Then, Lu Yiping, Taurus Longjiao, and the others left the strange space. Before leaving, Lu Yiping had Taurus Longjiao destroy the soul-sealing purgatory array's altar. After leaving the strange space, Lu Yiping went to the gray-haired old man Wu Mo's cultivation cave in the battlefield of gods. Over the years, Wu Mo had collected many good things in the battlefield of gods. Some of them were even heavenly god artifacts. Lu Yiping didn't need these things, but he could give them to others in the future. After moving everything out of Wu Mo's cultivation cave, Lu Yiping got on the war chariot and continued to advance in the battlefield of gods. The 4 of them led the way in front of the war chariot. The 4 of them were called Zhang Jin, Zhao Wen, Wei Bing, and Chen Yongyuan. With the 4 of them, Taurus Longjiao didn't have to do anything to the dead spirits and corpses they encountered on the way. The 4 of them directly crushed them. Night fell. The battlefield of gods was raging with wind. The dead spirits and corpses almost came out in full force. Although the 4 of them weren't afraid, they were annoyed. Let's stop in the valley ahead and continue tomorrow. Lu Yiping pointed at the looming valley ahead. Zhang Jin and the others respectfully acknowledged. Soon, the war chariot entered the valley. Lu Yiping scanned the valley and stopped in front of a mountain wall. Then, he ordered the 4 of them to make a bonfire and start roasting meat and drinking wine. The aroma of meat and wine filled the air. Taurus Longjiao suddenly swung its tail and killed a mosquito that was attracted to it. This mosquito was actually the size of a fist, and its mouth was cold and sinister. Damn, even a mosquito in the battlefield of gods is so big. If I get bitten, my butt will be twice as big, Taurus Longjiao said. Lu Yiping laughed and said, even without this mosquito, your butt is too big. Taurus Longjiao laughed and said, I can't help it. When I follow Master, I have to kick often. I've been training since I was young. Hearing this, Zhang Jin and the others couldn't help but laugh. What are you laughing at? Taurus Longjiao laughed and said, when the mosquito comes, the 4 of you, stand still and don't move. Don't use your divine power. Zhang Jin and the others suddenly had bitter expressions. Just as the 4 of them were talking and laughing, not far from the valley, 2 figures came. One was an old man, and the other was a young and beautiful woman with an oval face. Master, the death aura in the battlefield of gods is so strong. Is there really a divine phoenix tree? The woman asked in a pleasant voice. It shouldn't be fake. The old man pondered and then looked at the valley. There's a valley ahead. Let's go in for the night and continue tomorrow. The old man and the woman came to the valley and were surprised when they smelled the aroma of barbecued meat and wine. The 2 of them followed the aroma of barbecued meat and wine and walked over. Chapter 16. Then, they saw a blue-robed young man and a golden bull sitting beside the bonfire. Behind the blue-robed young man stood 4 burly middle-aged men. Seeing the golden bull, the old man was clearly startled. Then, their gazes fell on Lu Yiping. Taurus Longjiao saw the old man and woman staring at Lu Yiping and said, I say, even if our master is handsome, you don't have to keep staring. You can also look at me. This old bull is also quite handsome in human form. Hearing Taurus Longjiao's words, the woman couldn't help but laugh. This bull was quite funny. Old man He Shao cupped his fists and said to Lu Yiping, we were passing by and wanted to hide in the valley. We didn't want to disturb little brother. Lu Yiping smiled, it's fine, sit. He pointed to the opposite side of the bonfire, it's quite boring to drink wine anyway. Old man He Shao chuckled, then this old man won't be polite. Then, he sat opposite the bonfire with the woman. Lu Yiping threw 2 jugs of wine over, saying, I brewed this wine when I was bored. Although there are no precious ingredients, the taste is still not bad. He Shao opened the jug and smelled it. He was proficient in medicine and wasn't afraid of the wine's problems. He smiled, then many thanks, little brother. Then, he took a sip. When the wine entered his body, it was as if a fire dragon was soaring. Moreover, it contained an indescribable coolness. He Shao felt an indescribable comfort all over his body. He was shocked, then took another sip, carefully tasting it. Little brother, is this wine brewed from the ice flame fruit? He couldn't wait to ask. Ice flame fruit? Uxian was shocked. Their Medicine King Hall also had 2 ice flame fruits, but they were stored in the deepest part of the treasury. Even when refining divine-grade spirit pills, the Medicine King Hall was reluctant to use them. However, the ice flame fruit was actually one of the ingredients used to brew this wine. He actually used the ice flame fruit to brew wine. Lu Yiping saw He Shao and Uxian's shocked expressions and smiled, there are ice flame fruits. Ice flame fruit? He had used a total of 100 types of ingredients to brew this wine. The ice flame fruit was one of the most common fruits. When they heard Lu Yiping say that there was indeed an ice flame fruit in the wine, both He Shao and Uxian were shocked. However, the old man, He Shao, suddenly and carefully put the lid back on the wine. He smiled embarrassedly at Lu Yiping and said, little brother, this wine of yours is too precious. I want to keep it and slowly drink it when I get back. Lu Yiping chuckled. However, Taurus Longjiao said to the old man, He Shao, little guy, don't always call me master. My master is older than you. He Shao was stunned. Uxian chuckled, your master is older than my master. My master drinks enough wine to fill the celestial river. The heavenly god river was a legendary river in the eternity plane. It stretched across several continents. Taurus Longjiao glared and wanted to say something, but Lu Yiping shook his head and stopped Taurus Longjiao with his eyes. But to be honest, I've never seen a golden bull. Uxian looked at Taurus Longjiao from head to toe. Taurus Longjiao said with a serious face, this grandpa is the one and only Taurus Longjiao in the world. The lord of myriad demons. The thunder god's ancestor. The dragon emperor. Uxian looked at the bull who introduced himself with a serious face and laughed. A bull was the thunder god's ancestor? Or the dragon emperor? He Shao also laughed. Lu Yiping said to the two, my bull has always liked to brag. Don't listen to his nonsense. Uxian pursed her lips and smiled, it's normal for bulls to like to brag. Taurus Longjiao's face turned green. The 3 people and 1 bull chatted while drinking and eating barbecued meat. Unknowingly, the night passed. The sky was bright. There were fewer dead spirits and corpses outside. He Shao stood up and said to Lu Yiping, we still have things to do, so we'll part here. He Shao is very grateful for Master Lu's gift of wine. After thinking for a moment, he took out a book from his chest and said, this book contains some of my views on pharmacology. Master Lu, please accept it. Uxian was stunned. This book was her master's painstaking work. How could he give it to this blue-robed young man, Lu Yiping? Lu Yiping glanced at the book in He Shao's hand and said with a smile, no need. There are many books on pharmacology in my library. You can take it back. He had almost all of the Medicine God Valley sect's secret manuals. He learned from Wu Mo's memories that the Medicine King Hall was founded by an outer disciple of the Medicine God Valley sect. He Xiao was surprised to see Lu Yiping accept the book. He smiled and said, "In that case, Master Lu, if you have time in the future, remember to come find me at the Medicine King Hall. I will treat you with good wine." Lu Yiping nodded. Then, He Xiao and Yu Xian took their leave. After He Xiao and Yu Xian left, Lu Yiping also stood up and left the valley with Taurus Longjiao and the others. The gray-haired old man, Wu Mo, had not set up the soul-sealing purgatory array for many years, but the death aura in the battlefield of gods had not dissipated after so many years. Clearly, it was not caused by Wu Mo's soul-sealing purgatory array. Therefore, Lu Yiping still had to find out the real reason and Yang Dong's whereabouts. After He Xiao and Yu Xian left, He Xiao suddenly asked, "Yu Xian, what do you think of that Lu Yiping?" Hearing He Xiao's question, Lu Yiping's figure appeared in Yu Xian's mind. She said solemnly, "Very mature, not like a young man. He's like the deep night sky, unfathomable." Then she added, "Also, he's very knowledgeable, he knows everything. Moreover, those 4 guards are really strange. Their flesh and blood seem to have just grown out." He Xiao nodded, a light flickered in his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. While He Xiao and Yu Xian were searching for the Phoenix Sacred Tree, Lu Yiping's group arrived at a forest. This was the famous Black Prison Forest in the battlefield of gods. Towering ancient trees stretched to the sky, and all of them were black in color. The entire forest was shrouded in a kind of black fog, as black as blood. Lu Yiping remembered that this was the place where the sovereign of myriad gods had fallen. Zhang Jin and the others led the way, and the war chariot slowly entered the black prison forest. However, not long after they entered the black prison forest, they heard a beast's roar. The roar was very loud, like rolling thunder, rumbling endlessly. Taurus Longjiao was astounded. Thunder Qilin horse. The Thunder Qilin horse was also an ancient variant species. Chapter 17. Let's go over and take a look. Hearing the Thunder Qilin horses, Lu Yiping spoke. The battle force rushed towards the Thunder Qilin horses. Not long after, Lu Yiping's group arrived at the scene. 4 black-robed men were attacking the 2 Thunder Qilin horses, while the other 2 stood guard at the side to prevent the Thunder Qilin horses from escaping. Seeing the black-robed men, Lu Yiping's lips curled into a smile. These people were from the Dark Demon Hall. The black-robed men also noticed the war chariot and were surprised. One of the Dark Demon Hall's experts walked towards the war chariot. He stopped in front of the war chariot and looked at Lu Yiping's group with suspicion. He said solemnly, "These 2 Thunder Qilin horses belong to my Dark Demon Hall, please leave." His words were already considered polite. If it was the Dark Demon Hall's usual style, they would have directly killed the other party. However, he couldn't see through Zhang Jin's group of 4's strength, so he didn't make a move. "Leave?" Taurus Longjiao narrowed his eyes. "What if we don't leave?" The Dark Demon Hall's expert was stunned. At this time, another Dark Demon Hall's expert who was guarding the war chariot walked over and sneered, "Don't leave? Look at your golden hair, you're also a mutant. Kill you and dry you into beef jerky, it should taste good." But just as he finished speaking, his vision blurred and he was sent flying by Taurus Longjiao's leg. That Dark Demon Hall's expert smashed through countless ancient trees. When he finally landed on the ground, his face was completely deformed from the slap. His mouth and eyes could no longer be seen. What? The other Dark Demon Hall's experts were stunned. 2 of the 4 people who were attacking the Thunder Qilin horses stopped and walked over. Their faces were solemn. "Dry me into beef jerky?" Taurus Longjiao shook his head, looking at the Dark Demon Hall's experts and chuckled, "This old bull is too old, the beef on my body is thick and thick, it won't taste good even if I dry it into beef jerky. I wonder how it will taste if I dry you guys." Taurus Longjiao licked his thick tongue as he said this. The Dark Demon Hall's experts noticed that Taurus Longjiao's tongue was also golden. When they heard this, their faces darkened. In the past few years, the Dark Demon Hall had developed rapidly. Their forces had spread across dozens of continents in the Eternity Plane. Every continent in the Eternity Plane had a branch of the Dark Demon Hall. Even emperors of empires and dynasties would pale when they saw the Dark Demon Hall. They had never been mocked or threatened like this before. One of them stared at Lu Yiping with indifferent eyes. "Young man, which family are you from? Do you know that by doing this, you are bringing disaster to your family? Clan extermination?" Lu Yiping smiled faintly. "Then I really want to try." The three from Dark Demon Palace exchanged glances. The three of them suddenly jumped up and attacked with their devil swords at the same time. One of them stabbed at Lu Yiping, while the other two attacked Taurus Longjiao. Sword light bloomed. Demonic energy soared into the sky. The black mist around the forest was affected by the three people's sword chi, and all of it disappeared. The strength of their sword chi was even stronger than that of Sword Demon Shilai. After all, Sword Demon Shilai had just entered the Divine Spirit Realm. Whereas the three of them had been in the Divine Spirit Realm for several hundred years. However, just as the three of them swung their devil swords, three figures appeared in front of them. They were Zhao Wen, Wei Bing, and Chen Yongyuan of Zhang Jin's four great guards. Zhang Jin, who was the strongest among them, did not make a move. Zhao Wen, Wei Bing, and Chen Yongyuan did not use any weapons. Facing the other side's terrifying sword chi, they punched out. The three of them punched out 3 times. When the three of them punched out, space hummed as if it was going to split open. 3 terrifying punches pierced through space, breaking through the 3 Dark Demon Hall's sword chi like a hot knife through butter, and landed on the 3 Dark Demon Hall's experts' bodies. The 3 of them were sent flying. Just like the Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elder, they crashed to the ground, crushing countless ancient trees. The 3 of them looked at Zhao Wen, Wei Bing, and Chen Yongyuan with fear. True God Realm experts. Although Zhao Wen, Wei Bing, and Chen Yongyuan had not recovered their godheads, their true God Realm strength was not something the 3 Dark Demon Hall's early Divine Spirit Realm experts could contend against. The other 2 Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elders who were still attacking the Thunder Qilin horses and were unwilling to give up on them no longer cared about them. They stopped and flew over to Huang Xiaolong's side. The 2 Thunder Qilin horses fled in panic. Lu Yiping did not stop them. Although the Thunder Qilin horses were an ancient variant species, they were far inferior compared to the Taurus Longjiao. "Who are you?" The 2 Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elders who abandoned their Thunder Qilin horses looked at Lu Yiping fearfully. This young man, even his guards, were true God Realm experts. This was. Lu Yiping said nonchalantly, "The one who was injured a few days ago was your hall master, right?" The Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elders shuddered. Other than the group of Grand Elders and ancestors, no one else knew that their Dark Demon Hall's hall master was injured. The news had been sealed off. How did this young man know? Suddenly, they thought of a possibility. "It's you." Their faces tightened. Could this young man be? Lu Yiping did not bother to explain. The heaven and earth cauldron appeared in his hand. The cauldron flew up and a terrifying devouring force emerged from the cauldron, swallowing the 6 Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elders in an instant. The heaven and earth cauldron's formation rotated and soon, the 6 Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elders turned into golden god cores. Lu Yiping gave Zhang Jin and the other 3 10 golden god cores each. From now on, each of them could consume 1 golden god core every day to cultivate. The 4 Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elders had just regrown their bodies, and these golden god cores were great nourishment for them. "Lord, those 2 Thunder Qilin horses haven't gone far, should we follow them?" Taurus Longjiao asked Lu Yiping with a smile. "Follow them?" Lu Yiping looked at Taurus Longjiao with a meaningful gaze. Taurus Longjiao smiled embarrassedly, "I just want to recruit a few more subordinates for Master, to increase Master's reputation." Lu Yiping smiled faintly, "I think you're not trying to recruit a few more subordinates for me, are you? Those 2 Thunder Qilin horses are female." The golden horned dragon cow's face turned serious, in all honesty, I really just want to recruit a few more subordinates for Master, to increase Master's reputation. Lu Yiping interrupted him, all right, let's follow them and take a look. Zhang Jin and the other 3 Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elders did not have any mounts yet, so the 2 Thunder Qilin horses were suitable for them. Thus, the 4 Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elders followed behind Huang Xiaolong. Soon, they saw the 2 Thunder Qilin horses. The 2 Thunder Qilin horses were able to force several Dark Demon Hall's Grand Elders to gang up on them. Their strength was definitely not weak, and both of them were in the Divine Spirit realm. When the 2 Thunder Qilin horses saw Lu Yiping's group chasing after them, their bodies flickered with lightning, and countless bolts of divine lightning shot towards Lu Yiping's group. Chapter 18. Zhao Wen and Wei Bing punched out with their fists, breaking the lightning apart. Then, they took a step forward, arriving in front of the 2 Thunder Kirin horses. With a slap of their palms, the 2 Thunder Kirin horses fell to the ground. However, the 2 of them had held back their strength. Thus, the 2 Thunder Kirin horses only lost the ability to resist and were not seriously injured. After slapping the 2 Thunder Kirin horses to the ground, Zhao Wen and Wei Bing stepped forward and captured the 2 Thunder Kirin horses. However, Divine Spirit Realm demonic beasts were extremely hard to tame, not to mention ancient demonic beasts like the Thunder Kirin horses. But Lu Yiping only pointed at the Thunder Kirin horses, sending 2 golden lights into their bodies. The 2 Thunder Kirin horses immediately calmed down. Lu Yiping had Zhao Wen and Wei Bing use the soul refinement art to subdue the 2 Thunder Kirin horses and store them into their bodies. After the soul refinement art, the battle beasts could live in their masters' bodies. When facing an enemy, the battle beasts could even merge with their masters. Lu Yiping's group continued forward. From the 2 Thunder Kirin horses' memories, they learned that there were multiple spaces in the Black Prison Forest. Within these multiple spaces, there were several lightning element ancient demonic beasts. A short while later, Lu Yiping arrived in front of a different space. The entrances to these different spaces were sealed and were one with the entire Black Prison Forest. Thus, even a Heavenly God realm expert would have a hard time finding these entrances. Arriving at the entrance of the different space, Lu Yiping casually flicked his finger. The void in front of them rumbled as if a heavy curtain was being pulled open in the sky. Ripples of light rippled like a water curtain. Then, a space entrance appeared in front of them. The space entrance wasn't big, just big enough for a war chariot to enter. The group entered in a flash. Inside the space, there were streaks of lightning that looked like gossamer threads. The space was huge, with mountains, rivers, and trees everywhere. These alternate spaces were like small worlds of their own. Lu Yiping's gaze was deep as he looked at the deepest part of the different space. Taurus Longjiao was also surprised, Death Qi. Moreover, the Death Qi here was stronger than the gray-haired old man Wu Mo's. Death Qi? Zhang Jin and the other 3 were confused. The 4 didn't feel the Death Qi here. The war chariot slowly moved forward. The space was silent. Just as the war chariot moved forward, a claw the size of a small mountain suddenly reached out from the void and slammed down on the war chariot. As the giant claw slammed down, a shocking bolt of lightning struck down. These lightning bolts were actually black. Black nightmare lightning. It was a type of destructive lightning that was comparable to the ninefold tribulation lightning. Zhao Wen, Wei Bing, and Chen Yongyuan were shocked when they saw the black nightmare lightning falling from the sky. Zhang Jin leaped into the air and punched out with both fists. Zhang Jin had inherited Wu Mo's mid-true godhead, and his true god force surged out in waves, turning into a giant river that collided with the black nightmare lightning. With a loud bang, a lightning dragon fell out from the depths of the void. True God. That lightning dragon's voice was like thunder as it looked at Zhang Jin in shock. Clearly, it had not expected that Zhang Jin would be a true God realm expert. After forcing his opponent out, Zhang Jin took a step forward and arrived in front of Lei Long. He punched out once more, colliding with Lei Long's attack. Although this lightning dragon was an ancient variant species, it was still not a true god, merely a peak late-stage god realm expert. On the other hand, Zhang Jin had just integrated with Wu Mo's mid-true god godhead and had yet to fully grasp Wu Mo's true god power. Therefore, one man and one beast were evenly matched. However, as time passed and Zhang Jin fully grasped the mid-true god realm's true god power, the lightning dragon's defeat was only a matter of time. Taurus Longjiao looked at the lightning dragon and shook his head. The dragon clan's bloodline can be considered pure, but it's a pity that the cultivation technique it cultivates is too weak and mixed. This lightning dragon's bloodline was pure, but it did not cultivate the dragon clan's cultivation technique. Therefore, its battle power was not very high. Lu Yiping looked at the depths of the void, asking nonchalantly, "Do you intend to watch until the end?" The other side was clearly shocked and surprised. A moment of silence fell. Then, a figure whistled through the void, arriving in front of the group in the blink of an eye. The other side was clad in a light yellow brocade robe. Although he looked to be in his 30s, his handsomeness was out of the ordinary. The momentum he exuded was shocking, and there was a faint gray light swirling around him. Netherworld Devil Sect. Lu Yiping said nonchalantly after seeing the other side's attire. There were a total of 10 super forces in the Eternal Essence world. The first was the Great Celestial Gate, the second was the Netherworld Devil Sect, the third was the Een Ghost Sect, the fourth was the Martial God Hall, the fifth was the Medicine King Hall, the sixth was the Dark Demon Hall, the seventh was the Wan family, the eighth was the Tan family, the ninth was the Long family, and the 10th was the Lu family. The abbreviated names were 1 gate, 2 sects, 3 halls, and 4 families. The Eternal Essence world had a total of 46 continents, several hundred empires, tens of thousands of dynasties, and countless sects and families. However, these 10 super forces controlled 60% of the Eternal Essence world's power. Although it was only 60%, it was 60% of the Eternal Essence world's 46 continents' power. One could imagine how strong these 10 super forces were. Among the top 10 super forces, the Netherworld Devil Sect, the Een Ghost Sect, the Dark Demon Palace, and the Tan family all cultivated evil techniques. Especially the Netherworld Devil Sect and the Een Ghost Sect, they were brutal and murderous. The newcomer was one of the Netherworld Devil Sect's ancestors, Su Shou. He was a late-stage true god realm expert, much stronger than Wu Mo. That lightning dragon was his mount. Su Shou's gaze swept over Lu Yiping, Taurus Longjiao, Zhang Jin, and Zhao Wen. Although he appeared calm on the surface, his heart was filled with suspicion. Suddenly, his figure flickered, and corpse chi soared to the sky from his body, forming a Yellow Springs world, enveloping Lu Yiping and Taurus Longjiao. Su Shou cultivated the Yellow Springs devil skill, and the Yellow Springs corpse chi in the Yellow Springs world was extremely vicious. Even if an ordinary true god realm expert was invaded by the Yellow Springs corpse chi, his true god body would gradually turn into a corpse. The Yellow Springs world swallowed heaven and earth, and arrived in front of Lu Yiping's group in the blink of an eye. However, it stopped abruptly. Invisible rays of golden light had appeared in front of Lu Yiping's group. Under these invisible rays of golden light, the Yellow Springs world couldn't advance even half an inch. Su Shou's eyes widened. What kind of power is this? Yellow Springs devil art? But I haven't cultivated it to perfection. Taurus Longjiao said, I'll hold it. His huge bull horns pointed at the void. In an instant, a sky full of golden lightning fell from the sky. Su Shou was aghast. He swore that he had never seen such great lightning in this world. Under the sky full of golden lightning, the Yellow Springs world collapsed in an instant. Su Shou was blasted deep into the ground by the lightning. Who are you? Su Shou was on the verge of death, looking at Lu Yiping and Taurus Longjiao in horror. Lu Yiping was too lazy to speak. He pulled Su Shou in front of him and searched his soul. Soon, the soul search was over. This Su Shou cultivated the Yellow Springs devil art, and he killed more innocent people than Wu Mo. After Lu Yiping searched Su Shou's soul, he directly summoned the void lightning. Su Shou looked at the void lightning falling from the sky, and his eyes widened even bigger than a bull's. Void lightning? The void lightning fell, and just like Wu Mo, Su Xiu's soul was blasted into nothingness. Half a day later, Lu Yiping's group left the isolated space. As for the lightning dragon, Lu Yiping erased the restrictions on it, and Zhang Jin subdued it with a soul refinement technique. As for Su Xiu's godhead, Lu Yiping gave it to Zhao Wen. As for Su Xiu's flesh and blood, Lu Yiping refined them into true God realm gold pellets and gave them to Zhang Jin, Zhao Wen, and the others. Of course, everything in Su Xiu's cultivation cave was also taken away by Lu Yiping. Su Xiu's loot from the battlefield of gods was no less than Wu Mo's. There were even a lot of divine rank herbs, and now, all of them were given to Lu Yiping. Chapter 19. Lu Yiping frowned when he came out from the alternate space where Su Xiu was. Originally, he had searched Su Xiu's soul to see if he could find Yang Dong's whereabouts from her memories. However, Su Xiu was the same as Wu Mo, she didn't know where Yang Dong was. Thus, he had to continue searching. Subsequently, Lu Yiping and the others went to the other alternate spaces in the Black Prison Forest and subdued the other 3 lightning-attributed exotic beasts. Chen Yongyuan's mount was also a divine spirit realm Thunder Kirin horse. Just as Lu Yiping was subduing several lightning-attributed exotic beasts, somewhere in the battlefield of gods, He Xiao and Yu Xian escaped from an alternate space in a panic. Just as the two of them escaped from the alternate space, they saw a giant phoenix covered in golden flames flying out from the alternate space. The giant phoenix opened its mouth and golden phoenix flames rained down from the sky. He Xiao's face changed when he saw the phoenix flames raining down from the sky. He crazily circulated the god force in his body. Meteor flame. His god force burned fiercely. He seemed to have turned into a flaming meteor as he brought his disciple, Yu Xian, and broke through the void. Just as the two of them escaped, they heard a loud explosion behind them. The area of several hundred miles behind them was engulfed by the golden phoenix flames. Everything on the ground was incinerated. He Xiao was drenched in cold sweat. Ignoring everything else, the two of them ran with all their might. Fortunately, the phoenix didn't chase after them. After one attack, it retreated to the alternate space. Even so, the two of them ran for a long time before they finally landed on a piece of barren land, panting heavily. After confirming that the phoenix didn't chase after them, He Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. Then, his face was bitter. He had found the divine phoenix tree, but he didn't expect it to be guarded by such a terrifying phoenix. This phoenix, could it be the immortal golden phoenix? Yu Xian said. She still had lingering fear as she recalled the previous scene. The immortal golden phoenix's status in the Phoenix clan was equivalent to the dragon clan's 9-clawed golden dragon. It was the peak existence in the Phoenix clan. He Xiao's heart was still palpitating as he said, "It is indeed the immortal golden phoenix. Moreover, I'm afraid it's peak late-stage true god realm." What? A peak late-stage true god immortal golden phoenix? Yu Xian was shocked. He Xiao smiled bitterly, "Therefore, let's forget about the divine phoenix tree. This immortal golden phoenix doesn't want to kill us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to escape even if we had 10 lives. We'll think of other ways to solve the problem of your bloodline. Let's return to the Medicine King Hall first." In the blink of an eye, more than a month passed. More than a month later, somewhere underground in the battlefield of the gods, Lu Yiping looked gloomily at the array runes that stretched as far as the eye could see. There was a huge formation on the ground. It was a formation that had been lost since ancient times. It was called the 9 Ultimate God Burial Formation. Over the past month or so, he had been searching for the truth behind Yang Dong's disappearance. After combining various factors, he had finally found this place. Is this the 9 Ultimate God Burial Formation? Taurus Longjiao stared at the endless array of runes in front of him, stupefied and unsure. Lu Yiping replied in a low voice. Hearing Lu Yiping say that this was the 9 Ultimate God Burial Formation, Taurus Longjiao shuddered and stuttered, "It's really the 9 Ultimate God Burial Formation. Who would be so generous to set up such a huge 9 Ultimate God Burial Formation here?" Then, He stepped forward and looked carefully at the strange flower patterns on the ground. The more he looked, the more shocked he became. Are these ghost flowers? Legend has it that every time the 9 ultimate god burial formation devours a divine spirit realm cultivator's divine soul, it will condense a ghost flower. This 9 ultimate god burial formation has so many ghost flowers. How many divine souls did it devour? Taurus Longjiao felt goosebumps all over his body. At the same time, he was puzzled. How did the 9 ultimate god burial formation devour so many divine souls? Guessing Taurus Longjiao's thoughts, Lu Yiping said slowly, "The War of the Gods." What? The War of the Gods? Taurus Longjiao jumped up in fright. Master, are you saying that this 9 ultimate god burial formation was set up before the War of the Gods? Lu Yiping said in a low voice, "That's right, these ghost flowers aren't new." He could see that these ghost flowers had been condensed for a long time. And they were in the underground space of the War of the Gods. The 9 ultimate god burial formation could devour so many divine spirit realm cultivators' divine souls. It could only be the War of the Gods. During the War of the Gods, countless divine spirits, true gods, heavenly gods, and even heavenly gods' divine souls were devoured by the 9 ultimate god burial formation. The War of the Gods was indeed a conspiracy. Why did he set up the 9 ultimate god burial formation to devour so many divine souls? Taurus Longjiao said in a low voice, his throat dry. A light flickered in Lu Yiping's eyes. There's a cultivation technique that allows one to devour all kinds of divine souls to cultivate. Taurus Longjiao's expression turned solemn. Devouring so many divine souls to cultivate, what realm has this person's strength reached? Lu Yiping didn't say anything. This place was well hidden, and the restrictions around it were powerful. If it weren't for his current strength, he wouldn't have been able to find this place. The war chariot soared into the air, slowly entering the 9 ultimate god burial formation. Zhang Jin, Zhao Wen, and the others flew in front, circulating their god force. They were on high alert, waiting for any sudden changes. On the war chariot, Lu Yiping looked at the ghost flowers on the ground, and his expression turned uglier. Some of the ghost flowers on the ground were new. In the past, Yang Dong had come to this place after entering the War of the Gods. Most likely, he had been killed. Thinking of this, Lu Yiping urged Taurus Longjiao to speed up. Soon, they arrived at the eye of the formation. Looking at the eye of the formation, Lu Yiping's universe cauldron appeared in his hand. He jumped down from the war chariot and swung the cauldron down. Boom! When Lu Yiping swung the cauldron down, an earth-shattering might swept across space. The War of the Gods shook violently, and the millions of dead spirits and corpses on the battlefield shuddered. The experts who had entered the War of the Gods were dumbfounded. After being struck by the universe cauldron, the eye of the 9 ultimate god burial formation exploded. The entire eye of the formation was gone, and in its place was a terrifying crater with a radius of 10,000 li. Taurus Longjiao was dumbfounded. Wasn't this too violent? Lu Yiping sneered. Now that the eye of the formation was destroyed, let's see how you're going to repair the 9 ultimate god burial formation. Then, Lu Yiping waved his hands, and countless runes flew out, turning into heavenly dragons that disappeared into the void. This was the great mighty heavenly dragon formation. It could suppress all evil. As long as the person who arranged the 9 ultimate god burial formation came here, the great mighty heavenly dragon formation would be triggered, and he would know. He wanted to see who arranged the 9 ultimate god burial formation. Let's go. Lu Yiping said. Then, he left the underground cauldron with Taurus Longjiao and the others. After leaving, Lu Yiping didn't stay any longer in the War of the Gods battlefield. He returned to the edge of the battlefield. Chapter 20. On their way back to the edge of the battlefield, Taurus Longjiao suddenly sniffed the air around him and exclaimed in surprise, "Such pure phoenix fire." Although it was hard to see with the naked eye, he could still feel the pure phoenix fire in the air. Immortal golden phoenix? Taurus Longjiao was unsure. It's the immortal golden phoenix's fire. Lu Yiping confirmed. That means there's an immortal golden phoenix around here. Taurus Longjiao exclaimed in surprise. The immortal golden phoenix was an existence equivalent to a nine-clawed golden dragon. Lu Yiping scanned the surroundings, then led Taurus Longjiao and the others to a certain spot in the sky. Zhang Jin understood and punched out. Space trembled, and an entrance to a different space appeared. Just as they stepped into the space, shocking flames rushed towards them. Looking ahead, the space in front of them was filled with faint golden flames. It's really the immortal golden flames. Taurus Longjiao exclaimed. The immortal golden flames was a type of phoenix fire, and it was also one of the strongest flames between heaven and earth. Although the immortal golden flames were faint, even an emperor wouldn't dare to come close to it. Zhang Jin, Zhao Wen, and the others led the way. Their god force pushed the immortal golden flames away in an instant. Not long after. Soon, they saw a towering tree in front of them. A divine tree emitting flames from its trunk. The divine tree was surrounded by mountains, and the surrounding mountain peaks were dyed a bright red by the divine tree's flames. Amazing! Divine Phoenix Tree! Taurus Longjiao exclaimed. Divine trees were similar to mutated ancient beasts, they were also unique species. And the divine phoenix tree was undoubtedly the strongest among the divine trees. The divine phoenix tree was born with phoenix flames, and it was known as the Phoenix clan's ancestral tree. It was rumored that the first phoenix was born from the divine phoenix tree. The divine phoenix tree was rarer than the immortal golden phoenix. While Taurus Longjiao was still in shock, a phoenix cry resounded in the air. The phoenix cry reverberated through heaven and earth. In the next second, they saw a huge phoenix covered in golden flames flying out from the divine phoenix tree. The golden flame phoenix spread its wings. Just its wings alone were enough to cover an entire mountain. Late True God Realm? Taurus Longjiao was surprised. Lu Yiping was also surprised. Even the top 10 experts of Hengyuan Plain were only peak late-stage true gods. There was actually a peak late-stage true god immortal golden phoenix hiding in the battlefield of the gods. At this time, the immortal golden phoenix opened its mouth and immortal golden flames rained down from the sky like a torrential downpour. Watching the undying golden flames raining down from the sky, Zhang Jin, Zhao Wen, Wei Bing, and Chen Yongyuan leaped into the air and punched out simultaneously. The four real gods attacked at the same time. It was like a huge thunderclap. The undying golden flames that filled the sky were dispersed. Although the immortal golden phoenix was a peak late-stage true god realm expert, with Zhang Jin, Zhao Wen, and the other two joining hands, they barely managed to block the other party's attack. Ah! The immortal golden phoenix was shocked. For true gods. At this time, Zhang Jin, Zhao Wen, and the other two soared into the sky again. Each of them took a different position and attacked again. Behind each of them, a giant elephant appeared. These giant elephants were different from ordinary divine elephants. Their hooves were like pillars supporting the sky, and their bodies emitted a dark light. Astronomical divine prison fist. The immortal golden phoenix's face tightened as it looked at the four giant elephants behind them. It cried out, "Who are you? What is your relationship with Lord Holy Devil?" It was no wonder that its expression would change so drastically. The origin of this astronomical divine prison fist was simply too shocking. In the past, a supreme existence relied on this astronomical divine prison fist to sweep across the Hengyuan Plain, invincible for 3 eras. He had suppressed them for 3 eras. In those 3 eras, no matter what kind of monstrous existence one was, no matter how strong one was, they were overshadowed by this supreme existence. This supreme existence was known by the world as the Holy Devil. The Holy Devil. The Holy Devil. Of course, the astronomical divine prison fist was taught to the four by Lu Yiping. Of course, the supreme existence known as the Holy Devil had also stayed in the Holy Forest. His astronomical divine prison fist was also taught to him by Lu Yiping. Sword God Yang Dong was not qualified to be Lu Yiping's disciple, but this Holy Devil could barely be considered one of Lu Yiping's disciples. Zhang Jin, Zhao Wen, and the other two ignored the immortal golden phoenix's shock and continued to attack. Four fist imprints the size of mountains whistled through the air. The four fist imprints emitted a shocking black flame. Watching the astronomical divine prison fist coming at it, the immortal golden phoenix was alarmed. Its wings spread wide, and layers of phoenix energy shot out, forming a golden phoenix barrier. The four astronomical divine prison fist imprints landed on the phoenix barrier. The phoenix barrier shattered with a loud bang. The immortal golden phoenix staggered backward. Zhang Jin, Zhao Wen, and Zhao Wen's combined battle power was already on par with the immortal golden phoenix. Now that they executed the astronomical divine prison fist together, their battle power soared once again. The immortal golden phoenix was caught off guard. How could it withstand the attack? In an instant, the divine essence inside its body shook violently. Fortunately, Wei Bing and Qin Yongyuan did not have a godhead. Otherwise, the four of them would have been able to force the immortal golden phoenix back. The immortal golden phoenix was pushed back not far from Taurus Longjiao and Lu Yiping. Seeing Taurus Longjiao and Lu Yiping watching the show from the sidelines, the immortal golden phoenix was enraged. With a flap of its wings, a 10,000 zhang long golden saber chi slashed at the war chariot. Seeing this, Taurus Longjiao chuckled. He raised one of his bull legs and punched out with the astronomical divine prison fist. A fist imprint bigger than Zhang Jin, Zhao Wen, and Zhao Wen's combined attack broke through space. In an instant, the immortal golden phoenix was sent flying, crashing into a mountain peak in the Skyend mountain range. Mountains crumbled and the earth cracked. A long time later, the immortal golden phoenix struggled to get up. The golden feathers on its body lost their luster and fell to the ground one by one. What is your relationship with Lord Holy Demon? The immortal golden phoenix vomited blood, its voice hoarse as it looked at Taurus Longjiao with fear. Taurus Longjiao grinned, "You're talking about that holy demon brat? That brat can barely be considered as my master's disciple." "Your master's disciple?" The immortal golden phoenix's eyes widened to the maximum, then it looked at the blue-robed young man sitting on the war chariot. Was it this young man? There were countless legends about the holy demon in the Hengyuan world plane, but the identity of the holy demon's master had always been a mystery. Now, this bull actually said that this blue-robed young man was its master. Moreover, the holy demon was his disciple. Could barely be counted as one. The immortal golden phoenix was bewildered. This was really hard to believe. At this time, it saw Lu Yiping raise his hand casually. The divine phoenix tree that had been rooted in the ground for an unknown number of years, and had merged with the space around it, let out a loud boom. It shook off the surrounding mountains and slowly flew up. The divine phoenix tree couldn't shake it in the slightest, but now, it directly flew up into the air. Chapter 21. The immortal golden phoenix held her breath as she watched the divine phoenix tree slowly rise into the air. The divine phoenix tree had become one with this space. Not to mention a peak late-stage true god realm expert, even a heavenly god realm expert wouldn't be able to move it. It could be said that even if a heavenly god realm expert punched the divine phoenix tree with all his might, it wouldn't even lose a piece of its bark. A heavenly god realm expert's strength was like a breeze to the divine phoenix tree. But now, the entire divine phoenix tree was flying. The earth was shaking, and mountain peaks were collapsing one after another. The divine phoenix tree shook off all the restraints on the earth, and finally, it flew into the air. Like a flying dragon, countless tree roots floated in the air, emitting a mesmerizing luster. When the divine phoenix tree was rooted in the ground, it was already tall enough to touch the sky. Now that it had completely flown out, its size was indescribable. Lu Yiping looked at the divine phoenix tree in the air and shook his head. "It's a pity, it's still too young." The divine phoenix tree was not bad, but it was still in its infancy. The immortal golden phoenix almost vomited blood when she heard Lu Yiping disdain the divine phoenix tree for being too young. Motherf asterisk Ker, even this divine phoenix tree had been around for who knows how many years. It was probably as old as this alternate space. He actually disdained it for being too young. At this time, Lu Yiping took out a piece of golden soil. When the soil was taken out, heaven and earth lit up, and a shocking amount of chaos chi roiled inside the soil. This is Jiutian growing soil. The immortal golden phoenix's voice trembled in disbelief. You actually have a piece. Jiutian growing soil was a chaos divine item. Legend had it that even a weed could transform into a chaos spiritual herb after a long time. According to divine history, the Master of Gods had searched for a single piece of Jiutian growing soil, but to no avail. Now, the blue-robed young man had a piece of it in his hands. Lu Yiping smiled indifferently. In fact, he had more than one piece of Jiutian growing soil. He had many pieces. As for the other pieces of land, some of them were already planted with other plants. Lu Yiping casually tossed the piece of Jiutian living soil into the air. The palm-sized Jiutian living soil suddenly grew to the size of a continent. The divine phoenix tree flew down and took root on the Jiutian soil. The chaotic energy within the Jiutian living soil surged towards the divine phoenix tree. Instantly, the divine phoenix tree's phoenix flames surged. The essence of the phoenix flames from the divine phoenix tree also merged with the chaotic energy of the Jiutian soil of life. The Jiutian soil of life flickered with light, and the grains of soil became even more sparkling and translucent. A chaotic divine item like the Jiutian living soil naturally couldn't be planted with ordinary things. Otherwise, it would affect the quality of the Jiutian living soil over time. However, it was different for the divine phoenix tree. If a species like the divine phoenix tree was planted on the Jiutian living soil, the essence of the phoenix flames would have a reverse effect on the Jiutian living soil. Of course, if the divine phoenix tree was planted on the living soil of life, the divine phoenix tree would gain even more benefits. When the time came, the divine phoenix tree would grow at an astonishing speed, and it would continue to evolve. The leaves of the divine phoenix tree could be used to refine divine elixirs. If the leaves of the divine phoenix tree were planted on the Jiutian living soil of life, the effects of refining divine elixirs would be even more shocking. Lu Yiping stretched out his hand, and the continent-sized Jiutian living soil shrank again. The divine phoenix tree on it also shrank until it was the size of a palm. Lu Yiping placed it into the cauldron of heaven and earth. The immortal golden phoenix gulped. It looked at Lu Yiping nervously and anxiously. It didn't matter if the young man in front of it was really the holy demon's master. The terrifying strength that he had used to uproot the divine phoenix tree was not something it could resist. The young man only needed a finger to knead it into 10,000 pieces. Lu Yiping looked at the nervous immortal golden phoenix and said indifferently, "You come from a good background, possessing the phoenix clan's top bloodline. It's a pity that you've been cultivating and comprehending on your own, taking a crooked path. Otherwise, you would have broken through to the heavenly god realm a long time ago." The immortal golden phoenix's expression darkened. Gritting its teeth, it stepped forward and said respectfully, "Lord, please bestow the divine Tao to me. Huang Jiao is willing to be at Lord's beck and call, going through fire and water." Lu Yiping smiled faintly, "Going through fire and water? Not to that extent." Then, he raised his hand. Light surged from his finger, and strands of heavenly God's law condensed. In the end, there were more than 10,000 strands of heavenly God's law. Lu Yiping pointed. These 10,000 strands of heavenly God's law flowed into the immortal golden phoenix Huang Jiao's body. Huang Jiao integrated these 10,000 strands of heavenly God's law and comprehended them. In an instant, light surged from her body, and her aura grew stronger and stronger. In the end, her aura stirred the sky. Soon, the Jiutian's lightning clouds roiled, forming streaks of tribulation lightning. Clearly, this was a sign that Huang Jiao was about to break through to the heavenly god realm. As Huang Jiao's aura grew stronger, golden light burst out from her body, rushing into the Jiutian. Tribulation lightning rained down in torrents. The heavenly god's tribulation lightning that was strong enough to destroy a continent made heaven and earth lose its radiance. However, when the heavenly god's tribulation lightning fell, Lu Yiping merely made a grabbing motion in the air. An invisible giant hand caught the heavenly god's tribulation lightning. Although she had seen Lu Yiping's terrifying power, seeing Lu Yiping holding the heavenly god's tribulation lightning in the air, Huang Jiu was still overwhelmed with shock. He could actually hold the heavenly god's tribulation lightning? Huang Jiu couldn't imagine how Huang Jiu did it. At this time, Lu Yiping's hand tightened, and the invisible giant hand squeezed. The heavenly god's tribulation lightning exploded like fireworks in the sky. In the end, the tribulation lightning turned into the purest lightning energy, falling down and entering Huang Jiu's body. After absorbing the lightning energy, Huang Jiu's godhead began to transform, and a layer of luster covered his body. Huang Jiu adjusted to the heavenly god force in his body, took a deep breath, and then knelt down on the ground. Many thanks, Lord. Originally, Huang Jiu still needed several hundred years to break through to the heavenly god realm, but now, Lu Yiping helped him break through, saving him several hundred years of effort. Lu Yiping had Huang Jiu stand up, telling him to address him as master like Taurus Longjiao, Zhang Jin, and the others. Huang Jiu complied respectfully. A moment later, the group left the Phoenix isolated space. As for Huang Jiu, he turned into a palm-sized golden bird and sat on the front of the war chariot. Lu Yiping was not in a hurry to leave. The war chariot's speed was not fast. A few days later, they left the Ragnarok. Lord, where are we going? Zhang Jin asked respectfully. Lu Yiping muttered, let's go to the Big Dipper Empire. The Big Dipper Empire was the strongest empire on Shenwu continent. The Big Dipper Empire's capital was where the continent's largest merchant guilds were gathered. Wei Bing and Shen Yongyuan did not have a true god's godhead, so they went to the Big Dipper Empire's merchant guilds to see if there were any suitable ones. Chapter 22. Thus, they headed towards the Big Dipper Empire. A few days later, the Big Dipper Empire was in sight. Sir, after passing through the mass graves in front, we will reach the border of the Big Dipper Empire. Zhang Jin pointed to a hill in front of them that was overgrown with weeds and chilly winds. The Big Dipper Empire and the Baiyue Empire often fought at the border. Those buried here were almost all the warriors of the Big Dipper Empire who died on the battlefield. The hill was huge, and the tombs stretched as far as the eye could see. Although it was called a mass grave, it was actually a country of graves. The hills were endless, and no one knew how many there were. Lu Yiping nodded. Let's go over. The war chariot flew into the sky above the mass grave and slowly moved forward. It was already late at night. A chilly wind blew in the mass grave, and the sound of the wind was like the cries of ghosts. It was very scary. Some of the more timid ones would feel their legs go weak just by hearing the sound of the wind. The number of warriors of the Big Dipper Empire who had died over the years was unimaginable. Therefore, the Yin energy had reached an astonishing level. Not to mention mortals, even cultivators who had reached the foundation establishment stage would be bedridden if they were invaded by the Yin energy. The war chariot flew. The chilly wind became stronger and stronger. The surroundings were dead silent. Suddenly, one of the tombs on the ground broke open, and a figure flew up with an astonishing amount of corpse energy and attacked the war chariot. Zhang Jin did not make a move, and the divine power in his body surged. The space shook, and the figure was sent flying. The one who attacked the war chariot was a corpse with a pale face, empty eyes, and broken armor. It exploded after being hit by Zhang Jin's divine power. It was a living dead. Some sect disciples who cultivated evil techniques would come here and use secret techniques to refine the recently buried warriors of the Big Dipper Empire into living dead. Those sect disciples who cultivated evil techniques controlled these living dead to attack the experts who passed by the mass grave. After killing the experts, they would plunder the spirit stones, spirit pills, and spirit herbs from the experts. They would even refine the experts into living dead. The living dead were somewhat similar to the corpses on the battlefield of the gods. However, the corpses on the battlefield of the gods were monsters born after countless years of devouring death energy and had spiritual intelligence. These living dead did not have spiritual intelligence, and their death energy was far from being comparable to the corpses on the battlefield of the gods. The war chariot continued to move forward. Following that, more and more zombies attacked. The stronger these living corpses were when they were alive, the stronger their physical bodies would be when they were refined into living corpses. However, those buried here were basically ordinary warriors of the Big Dipper Empire. Thus, they were generally not very strong when they were alive. As long as one was in the Greater Heaven Realm, one could join the army. The war chariot did not stop at all. More and more zombies appeared. However, no matter how many there were, they were all shattered before they could even get close to the chariot. Over an hour later, the chariot passed through the mass grave. In front of him was a vast and empty mountainous area. However, not long after Lu Yiping's group entered the mountainous region, they heard an angry shout behind them, "Stop right there." Then, several figures arrived and stopped the war chariot. The leader was a woman with a good figure. She had almond-shaped eyes and cherry lips. She was quite good-looking, but she exuded a murderous aura. There was a faint black glow between his eyebrows. It was obvious that he was cultivating an evil cultivation method. Behind the woman were 4 men. All 5 of them wore purple robes with a sinister white bone embroidered on their sleeves. This was the symbol of the White Bone Gate. The White Bone Gate was a powerful force in the Big Dipper Empire. Its strength was on par with the Lei Kei Sword School. "Those zombies were all killed by you." Miao Yen glared at Lu Yiping's group. She had spent a lot of time and effort to refine those zombies in the mass grave. There were tens of thousands of them, but they were all killed today. Lu Yiping didn't say anything. Taurus Longjiao stared at her and grinned. "Little girl, did you refine those zombies?" "Why?" "Looking at your angry face, you want us to compensate you?" "How dare you!" One of the White Bone Gate's experts behind Miao Yen roared. He suddenly swung a sledgehammer at Taurus Longjiao. These White Bone Gate's experts were ruthless and murderous. Sometimes, they would slaughter an entire family of the other party just because of a disagreement. This was a common occurrence. In the Eternity Plane, the levels below the God Spirit level were divided into 10 divisions. Above the God Spirit level were the early, mid, late, and peak. Shockingly, this White Bone Gate expert was in the 7th division of the life-seizing level. He was far stronger than the Shao clan elder Shao Yuan, who had tried to steal Lu Yiping's Crimson Flame sword. Shao Yuan was only in the 1st division of the life-seizing level. The Dragon Horn Golden Bull didn't attack. Zhang Jin raised a finger, and a finger force sent the White Bone Gate's expert flying. The White Bone Gate's expert exploded in midair. A rain of blood sprayed out. "What?" Miao Yen and the others said, their faces flickering. Zhang Jin glared coldly at the White Bone Gate experts. "If you attack again, you'll all die." One of the White Bone Gate's experts was enraged. Just as he was about to step forward, Miao Yen reached out and stopped him. Voice grim, she turned to Lu Yiping and asked, "Which sect are you from?" Lu Yiping didn't respond. He didn't feel like replying. "Let's go." The war chariot sped off into the distance. Miao Yen was so angry that her face turned green. That was especially true of the fact that the blue-robed young man was toying with a golden bird in his hand, and didn't even look at her. This was contempt, blatant contempt. In the end, she didn't make a move. The war chariot sped off into the distance. "Elder sister," one of the White Bone Gate experts said, looking around at the bloodstains on the ground. "Junior brother Chen's corpse is nowhere to be found. What do we do?" Miao Yen looked coldly at the war chariot. "Let's go back and report this to Master. I'll show them what the White Bone Gate is capable of." The group shot off into the distance. Before long, the war chariot was at the border of the Big Dipper Empire. Lu Yiping and the others didn't take the matter of the White Bone Gate to heart. The Big Dipper Empire's border wall was 30 meters tall, and several meters thick. It was covered with all sorts of offensive and defensive spell formations. At the gate, groups of disciples and experts from various clans were being interrogated as they entered the city. Lu Yiping's war chariot flew through the air above the Big Dipper Empire. The war chariot flew over the heads of the soldiers guarding the city, but none of them noticed it at all. After entering the Big Dipper Empire's border, the group passed through city after city without any obstructions. A few days later, they arrived at the Big Dipper Empire's capital. As the capital of the #1 empire on the Shinwu continent, it was huge, and one couldn't see the end of it. Liu Yiping and the others entered the city, and they were greeted by a sense of prosperity. The city's streets were filled with endless traffic, and all sorts of noises could be heard. All sorts of disciples and experts were shuttling back and forth. "Sir!" Suddenly, a pleasantly surprised voice rang out. Liu Yiping looked over and saw that it was Liu Peng. Besides Liu Peng, there was also Liu Xiaoyu, Lei Ke Sword School's sect master Song Ning, and a group of experts from Lei Ke Sword School. Chapter 23. Liu Yiping was surprised to see Liu Peng, Liu Xiaoyu, and the others. What were they doing in the Big Dipper Empire? The Big Dipper Empire was quite far from the Lei Ke Sword School. At this time, the Lei Ke Sword School's sect master, Song Ning, stepped forward and respectfully greeted Liu Yiping. "Greetings, young master." Previously, he had been struck by sword demon Shilai's sword qi, and it had been Liu Yiping who had helped him cleanse it. Although Song Ning did not know Liu Yiping's true identity, he knew that even their ancestors, Yang Cheng and Chen Hong, were unusually respectful to Liu Yiping. Moreover, he guessed that sword demon Shilai's death had something to do with Liu Yiping. The other experts of the Lei Ke Sword School did not know about Liu Yiping, and they were surprised to see their sect master Song Ning respectfully greet Liu Yiping. Liu Yiping nodded, then asked Song Ning, "Why are you here in the Big Dipper Empire?" Song Ning quickly replied, "Young master, the 1st of next month is the Big Dipper Empire's 10,000th anniversary. The empire is celebrating, and we are here to participate in the celebration." The Big Dipper Empire's 10,000th anniversary celebration was a major event on Shinwu continent. Therefore, many imperial families, sect masters, and even some empire experts would come to celebrate. "Young master, are you here to participate in the celebration as well?" Song Ning asked carefully. Liu Yiping replied, "I'm here to buy something." Song Ning smiled. "What is it that you want to buy?" "Young master, please tell me to buy it. I know a manager from the Secret Chamber of Commerce." The Secret Chamber of Commerce was one of the largest chambers of commerce on Shinwu continent. However, Liu Yiping shook his head. "You can't afford what I want to buy. A true god's godhead was something that even Yang Cheng could not afford, let alone Song Ning. Even if he brought the entire Lei Ke Sword School's treasury with him, he could not afford it. A true god's godhead was not something that the Lei Ke Sword School could afford. Not to mention 2 true godheads. One of the Lei Ke Sword School's grand elders saw Liu Yiping's arrogant tone and couldn't help but say, "Kid, your tone is too arrogant. Our sect master can't afford it." When Song Ning heard the Lei Ke Sword School's grand elder talk back to Liu Yiping, his face turned pale with fright. He slapped the Lei Ke Sword School's grand elder's face. "How dare you!" The experts from Lei Ke Sword School were shocked when they saw Song Ning's exasperated expression. It was as if she wanted to kill someone. They had never seen such a ferocious expression on their sect master's face. Just because the Grand Supreme Elder of Lei Ke Sword School talked back, their sect leader actually wanted to. "Why aren't you apologizing to Master Liu?" Song Ning glared at the Lei Ke Sword School's Grand Elder. The Lei Ke Sword School's Grand Elder also looked at Song Ning in a daze. His ears were ringing and his face was burning hot. It was obvious that Song Ning had used a lot of strength to slap him. Liu Yiping looked at the Lei Ke Sword School's Grand Elder and said indifferently, "Forget it, the ignorant are innocent." Song Ning felt as if he had been pardoned and thanked Liu Yiping profusely. Liu Yiping said, "Since you know the Heavenly Secret Chamber of Commerce's deacon, help me ask him if the Heavenly Secret Chamber of Commerce has any true godheads for sale." Song Ning was stunned. The Lei Ke Sword School's Grand Elder and the others also looked at Liu Yiping in shock. Did this young man want to? Young noble wants to buy a true godhead? Song Ning swallowed his saliva and felt his heart trembling. Lu Yiping grunted, I don't want the ordinary ones, I want the top ones. He wants the top true Godhead. And he doesn't want the ordinary ones. Song Ning felt his heart trembling madly. I want to buy too. Lu Yiping said again. Song Ning's trembling heart suddenly stopped. Two. Lu Peng and Lu Xiaoyu also looked at Lu Yiping in shock. Although the two of them had spent several days with Lu Yiping, their knowledge of Lu Yiping was even less than Song Ning's. The crowd quieted down. No one from the Lei Ke Sword School dared to speak. After a long time, Song Ning stammered, Young noble, we plan to find a hotel to stay for a few days. If young noble doesn't have a place to stay, would you like to stay with us? He then looked at Lu Yiping nervously. All right. Lu Yiping pondered for a moment before saying. Hearing Lu Yiping's agreement, Song Ning was overjoyed. Thus, Lu Yiping and the Lei Ke Sword School students looked for a hotel. Seeing the crowded streets, Lu Yiping put away the war chariot. How's your practice of the Azura sword skill? Lu Yiping asked Lu Peng and Lu Xiaoyu. Lu Peng quickly answered, replying to young noble, we've been practicing day and night for more than a month, and we've already reached the 19th move. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me. Lu Yiping said. Thank you, young noble. Lu Peng and Lu Xiaoyu quickly expressed their gratitude. Watching this, Song Ning was naturally envious. Half an hour later, Song Ning's forehead was dripping with sweat from anxiety. Although there was still half a month before the Big Dipper Empire's celebration, the Big Dipper Empire's hotels were bustling with activity. They had already checked out 6 hotels, and all the rooms were full. Young noble, why don't we go to the next hotel and ask? Song Ning asked Lu Yiping. No need. Lu Yiping shook his head, it's the same even if we continue to look. After a pause, he added, I have a place to stay, come with me. He just remembered that the Netherworld Devil Sect's ancestor, Su Xiu, had a residence in this city. Su Xiu rarely stayed here, and now, the residence was empty. Hearing Lu Yiping say that he had a place to stay, Song Ning was surprised. However, he didn't dare to ask, and followed Lu Yiping with the Lei Ke Sword School students to Su Xiu's residence. As a late-stage True God Realm expert, the location of Su Xiu's residence was naturally excellent. It was located in the center of the Big Dipper Empire. However, when Lu Yiping's group was about to reach Su Xiu's residence, they saw a large group of people blocking Lu Yiping's path. These people were from the White Bone Gate. There were 70 to 80 people in total. Seeing these people, Song Ning was shocked. White Bone Gate. At this time, Miao Yen from the White Bone Gate walked out. Looking at Lu Yiping, she sneered, so, you're from the Limitless Empire's Lei Ke Sword School. She then turned to one of the old men and said, Master, it's this person's subordinate who killed junior brother Chen. Wang Lianshan walked out, looking at Lu Yiping and the 4 people behind Lu Yiping, and said coldly, you killed my disciple and destroyed several thousand of my sect's living corpses. Tell me, how do you want to settle this matter? Lu Yiping was nonchalant, settle? Then he smiled, how do you want to settle this? Seeing Lu Yiping's playful smile, Wang Lianshan's face sank, since you're from the Lei Ke Sword School, I'll give the Lei Ke Sword School some face. Your subordinate killed my disciple, a life for a life. I only want his life. Moreover, you've destroyed several thousand of my sect's living corpses. You need to compensate me with 1 million high-grade spirit stones.